The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, King of Johto. That guy is here? It was agreed that we should go together when the silver tournament begins, but this guy has been here for a month. He really thinks we have a lot of time. In front of the Yanmo gym, a man with bright clothes and purple hair said lazily, "Don't you have much time? I see that you spend most of the day dressing up every day, more than I do." A graceful woman next to the man said, "Women, if you can't learn to dress up, you are a failed woman." The first man said, "I'm born with beauty and God has given me food to eat, but you look good, no matter who you defeat. You are not a successful woman, but a failed man." The woman hit back with her silver blue hair. "Didn't you say you were here to find Do? Why are you arguing again?" Anew, who was dressed in ninja clothes, smiled helplessly beside the two people. The three of them are the Superpower King Yishu, the Evil King Lihua and the last Poison King Anew among the four kings of Johto. As for the Fighting King Zimba, Kona gave herself a holiday and Kikuko went to be a gym trainer. There were so many things to do that she had no time to come here to find Do. Who said I came to find Do? I came to find Kona and her cute little brother. No, now her boyfriend, Zahu. When I first met him, he was only 10 years old, soft and cute, and looked easy to bully. I didn't expect that he would be crushed by Kona so quickly. If I had known this, I should have taken the initiative. The silver blue haired woman, that is, Rika, said with regret. Go inside and say this. I think you want to be frozen by Kona, and frozen for a few days. Anew glanced at Rika and said, just say it, it's not like you haven't been frozen before. Rika looked indifferent. As the king of Johto, she has a close relationship with Kona, who is the king of Kanto. They are real besties. Anew and Kazuki's mouths twitched, but they couldn't do anything to Rika. Among the four kings, Rika is the strongest except for Shiba. Even if fighting had not restrained the evil attribute, Lihua might not necessarily lose. She could only silently say in her heart that a good man does not fight with a woman. Okay, my lovely brother Zahu, the fun Kajiro, and the stupid Meow Meow, Sister Lihua is here. Lihua walked in with a proud look on her face. Zahu in the gym heard Lihua's voice and showed a smile that was neither funny nor sad, while Kajiro and Meow Meow shuddered at the same time. Why did this female devil come here? Brother Kajiro, Meow Meow, what are you doing? Heyo, I asked with a strange look on his face. Hiroi. Kajiro and Meow Meow looked at each other, both showing a hint of excitement. That guy likes to play new things. Sister Lihua, we missed you. Kajiro and Meow Meow ran towards Lihua excitedly. So well behaved. I don't have to look for you this time. Lihua looked at the two people with a surprised expression. Why are these two children so proactive today? It's not fun at all. In the past, every time I went to Zahu Research Institute, it was a fun process to slowly look for them. Yes, we are going to introduce you to a new friend. The boss's apprentice, the son of the Dragon King Genji of Hone, has a very good personality, even better than Kajiro. Meow Meow said enthusiastically, a very good personality, easy to bully, even easier to bully than Kajiro. Oh, better than Kajiro. Lihua showed a charming smile, walked to Heioi and said, you are Zahu's new apprentice. Sister Lihua likes well-behaved children like you the most. Okay, I'm not particularly well-behaved. Heioi scratched his head blankly. Seeing Heioi's expression, Lihua's smile became even bigger. Sure enough, he is a little naive and easy to bully. Sister Lihua, Heioi is still young, don't bully him so that he doubts his life. Zahu said. Young? Not young, 15 or 16, only 1 or 2 years younger than you. Lihua said with a playful smile, but speaking of it, among all the people I've met, you're the most fun, and you can sometimes tease me, unlike Kajiro and Meow Meow. Zahu smiled bitterly. Lihua, the evil king, likes the bad expressions of evil Pokémon, and likes to play tricks on people. She is the most playful one among the kings Zahu knows. Stop it, Lihua, if you keep talking, I'll freeze you. Kona said unhappily. Boring woman, I don't know how brother Zahu can like you. Lihua said with a look of disgust. Because I'm older than you. Kona said. Older than me. This is your disadvantage, okay? Could it be that Brother Zahu likes this and likes older ones? It's scary to think about it. Lihua said with a face full of fear. He has no interest in tablets. Kona said. Flat? What did you say? Lihua's face darkened. Although Lihua loved to play tricks on people and had a bad temper in the eyes of many people, in terms of appearance and figure, she was a well-deserved goddess in Johto, okay? Kona slightly adjusted her glasses and straightened her waist a little. In this regard, she showed that she was never inferior. Zahu glanced left and right. Well, one side was surging, and the other side was also a charming S, but when compared horizontally, it was like a small bump and a high peak. There was no comparison. Brother Zahu, what are you looking at? Lihua said with a crazy expression. Do you think what she said is right? Yes. Zahu nodded honestly. Even if this was not true, I would still stand next to my wife resolutely. What's more, this is a fact that anyone with eyes can see. What? Really? Brother Zahu, you weren't like this before. Lihua looked at Zahu with horror and said, you don't love your sister anymore. Say it clearly, I never loved you. Zahu said hurriedly, in front of my wife, please say it clearly. Lihua, you really asked the wrong person. When they were not together, they bullied others together, not to mention that they are together now. Besides, didn't you come to find me? Du said on the side. That's Saju and the others' business. Why should I be in a hurry? I came here mainly to have fun. Lihua looked indifferent, then looked at Zahu curiously and said, by the way, Brother Zahu, I heard that you have subdued several mythical beasts in a row. Is it true? Although they were bickering, everyone still had a good relationship. Please turn your head and look to the left. Zahu said. Lihua heard this and looked over curiously and then saw the 3 mythical birds in the sky training Lugia together and the entity on the ground educating Latius. 6 legendary beasts. Rika was not shocked yet, but Akane and Kazuki who were watching next to her were shocked first. Are you kidding me? 6. We never had any. Especially Kazuki, his eyes glowed blue when he looked at Lugia and Latius. These are all psychic Pokémon. Chapter 252 The Tragic Kings. Dr. Zahu, do you have any secret to taming the beasts? If so, tell me. I'm willing to pay any price. Yashu took a deep breath and looked at Zahu with a flattering face. This is all about fate. I can't do anything about it. Zahu said. Fate? What kind of fate is that? Is there no trick? Yashu looked like he was going to get to the bottom of it. Yashu, please care about your image. We are all the 4 heavenly kings and represent the face of Johto. You are like this now, and you are the only one who is embarrassed. Du said unhappily. Face? Your face is so valuable, more valuable than the beasts. A Latius and a face. Which one would you choose? Yashu said with disdain. Face? Is this thing more valuable than the beasts? That's a fucking beast. In Kanto Johto, there are so many champions, but I have never heard of anyone with a beast. Face? What are you doing here? Du was furious. While despising Yashu's shamelessness, he felt that Yashu was right. Face? If we can get the divine beast, it doesn't matter if we lose it once. Anyway, there are no outsiders here. They are all champions, so there is no such thing as a champion halo. Zahu rolled his eyes when he saw this, knowing that these champions are surrounded by various halos in front of ordinary people, and everyone thinks they are great. In fact, in their daily lives, they are all shameless. A little embarrassed, Doomings he avoided the topic and said, don't talk about it. Why are you still here? Shouldn't you go to arrange the silver conference? You, the champion, didn't go, and you still want to arrange for us to go? Don't think too much. The president has come to the Silver Mountains. Why don't you leave? We are here to take you away. Lihua said unhappily. If you want to blame this, you can only blame your brother Zahu. It was him who forced me to train his Pokémon. Du said. I only said 7 days. You are addicted to living there yourself. Zahu said. He can't take the blame. Nonsense. Your Dragonite has evolved. How can I not see it? What kind of species is your Dragonite? It just evolved, but it's so strong that my Dragonite almost couldn't suppress it. In a few years, it will probably suppress my Dragonite. Du scolded angrily. In fact, Do should have left a long time ago. However, Haoi is a talented kid. As a senior, Do is never opposed to guiding the younger generation. Moreover, Haoi is also a little expert in raising violent salamanders, so Do also asked some tips. For example, the baby dragon evolved, so he had to stay for a few more days. Then, Do was about to leave again a few days ago, and Zahu's Dragonite evolved. That's right, it evolved. When fighting with the Sanctuary Dragonite, it evolved. And once it evolved, its size was twice that of the ordinary Dragonite. Its strength is not only the king, but also the top among the kings. After Dragonite evolved, Zahu relaxed the battle restrictions and directly invited Do to a battle of kings. Do, who had long wanted to beat Zahu with Dragonite, of course agreed without a second thought. As for the Silver Conference, screw it, let's fight first. Then, in that battle, Zahu and D both tried their best. Although Do's Dragonite won in the end, it was an extremely difficult victory. Do couldn't believe it, and became more and more jealous. Why did this guy get all the good things? A giant Gyarados is fine. Now there's another Dragonite. In that battle, Do was obviously the winner, but he didn't feel the joy of a winner. However, despite this, facing such a powerful Dragonite, Do, as a Dragonite expert, couldn't help but want to study it again, so he hasn't left until now. What's the use of suppressing your Dragonite for a few years? My Dragonite's target has never been your Dragonite, but the ancestor inside. Zahu shook his head. Compared with that ancestor, your Dragonite, Do said with a surprised expression. What? Don't you have the idea of winning? Zahu asked back. Of course I do. There's also the Charizard in Charizard Valley, but in the end, you beat both of them before I beat them. Do said unhappily. The Charizard in Charizard Valley and the Dragonite in Yanmo Gym were once his targets, but now they have been defeated by Zahu. So work hard to practice. I expect that I will start to settle down after traveling to Hone, Sinnoh, Unova, and Kalos, which means there are about 4 years left. In these 4 years, work hard to improve your strength, otherwise it will be boring to sweep the 4 Heavenly Kings when I come back. Zahu said. Hey, you said this in front of the 4 Heavenly Kings and a champion. Do you want to fight? Do said with a dissatisfied look on his face. What does it mean to sweep the 4 Heavenly Kings? Do you think I'm dead? Want to fight? Sure, I'll use Articuno, you go first. Zahu said. He turned his head away. Use Dragonite to fight Articuno. Do you think I'm stupid? If you have the guts, let Moltres come. Okay, stop bickering. Now that we've met, and the problem has been solved, let's go together. Anyway, our goal is the same, Silver Town. Lihua said. Forget that. The scenery in the Johto area is pleasant. I plan to travel with Kona to Silver Town. And you, don't you think you are a small bulb? Zahu said. Brother Zahu, do you know that you are annoying like this? Lihua said dissatisfiedly. Kajiro, meow meow, Hirono, 3 gifts are enough. Zahu said. Okay, I forgive you. Lihua said cheerfully. Kajiro and meow meow shuddered collectively. Hirono didn't understand why, but he also shrank his body. That's it, please send them off. Kona sister, let's go. Zahu said to Kona in the last sentence. Kona nodded, and the two of them happily put all the Pokémon back into the Pokéball, and then embarked on a trip to Silver Town. I've always known that when they were apart, they still had some humanity, but once they were together, they would be completely inhuman. But I didn't expect that they would be so completely inhuman, and leave as soon as they said they would. Do shook his head. So you've always been single? Aju said. Aju? What do you mean? Are you proud that you're married? Do glanced at her. Aju turned her head away, and although she didn't say anything, her expression was indeed proud. Married? I even have a daughter, unlike you all, who don't even have a girlfriend. Stop arguing, and stop dawdling. If you continue like this, President Damaranshi will scold you. Let's go first. Yoshu stopped him. He didn't have much feeling about being single or married. Although he had been single for many years, he had a lot of fans. In Johto, he was like Mikali and Hone. And with Yoshu talking, Do didn't bother to care anymore, and the group took Haoi and others with them, and set off for Silver Mountain. Chapter 253, Lugia's Rebirth. In the sky, a layer of rain clouds that have accumulated for many years gathered in the sky. Even in the case of severe drought, this layer of rain clouds will not disperse. On the contrary, it will become the key to alleviating drought in Hinoki Town. Today, many townspeople saw some white shadows occasionally emerging from the clouds. In the high mountain forest, Zahu smiled happily as he watched the shadows emerging from the clouds. Starting from the Yanmo Gym, Zahu and Kona traveled all the way to Bayan Town. When passing through Hinoki Town, Lugia naturally flew high into the sky to absorb the power left in the clouds by an unknown Lugia. After a long time, a Lugia flew out of the clouds and happily flew towards Zahu and Kona, showing its grown body in front of Zahu and Lugia. Zahu looked at the Lugia at this time, and it was no longer possible to add a small word in front of it. The height was estimated to be 5 meters, which was the data of a normal adult Lugia. The blue fins on his back danced with the wind, showing the movement of the wind. When his wings were spread, a strong wind blew out. His eyes were shining, showing his extraordinary superpowers. You've grown up. Zahu looked at Lugia, who seemed to have been reborn, and smiled with satisfaction. Yes, brother Zahu, sister Kona, I've grown up. I've become stronger, and I can always protect you in the future. A light green light appeared on Lugia, and a naughty and childish voice sounded. You can already use your superpowers to make human sounds? Zahu was surprised. Among the Lugia he knew, only the sea god Lugia in the Orange Islands could do this, and even his mother couldn't. Yes, after absorbing the superpowers inside, I can speak. I can speak to anyone, to Sister Kona, to Kajiro, and to Zaozi and the others. Lugia said excitedly. Although his strength has become stronger, and he looks like an adult, his mental age is still at the stage of a child. Then talk to people nicely, and have fun in the future. Zahu said. Yes, I will learn how to transform from Latias. If I learn how to transform, I can have more fun. I don't even need to enter the Pokeball like Meowth, and I can also learn technology. Lugia said excitedly. Transform into a human. That is a special ability that Latias is born with. It can't be learned. Just like you can control the weather by nature, Latias can't learn it. Zahu smiled. Is that so? Lugia showed a little disappointment on his face, but soon cheered up again and said, then brother Zahu, please help me. Latias and I are both psychic type, so it should be connected. You can study it. I believe you can do it. Believe that I can. Then just assume that I can do it. I will work hard. Zahu smiled. It is an honor and a pressure to be trusted by his own Pokémon. Yes, brother Zahu is the best. I will also work hard to help brother Zahu. There will be brother Zahu's children in the future, and I will always accompany brother Zahu and sister Kona. Lugia smiled. Always accompany me? Your mother wants you to run for the god of the sea. Zahu said. I won't do it. I don't want to leave brother Zahu and sister Kona and Latias. I will just follow brother Zahu. But brother Zahu, can you live near the sea in the future? In this way, I can be the guardian of a sea area. Lugia said. If you really want to stay with me, then I will definitely live in the Orange Islands or Alala Islands in the future. There is no Lugia near Alala, so you can directly become the guardian of that sea area, but I'm in the Orange Islands, so you have to fight with the Lugia there, which is equivalent to running for the god of the sea. Zahu said. Then we'll talk about it later. Anyway, brother Zahu still has to travel now, and I can't beat that Lugia yet, so let's just play first. Lugia said excitedly. Brother Zahu, sister Kona, do you want to sit on my back? I'll take you flying together. Okay. Zahu said without hesitation. Although he has ridden many mythical beasts, it is the first time for him to sit on the back of a first level mythical beast. Kona was also excited. After all, she was sitting on Lugia's back. Zahu and Kona had just sat firmly when Lugia couldn't wait to take off. With a flap of its wings, the wind around it all emerged and automatically helped without any hindrance. All of a sudden, it was in the clouds. Zahu felt uncomfortable at first, but he reacted quickly. Looking at the clouds flashing by, he felt even happier. This was not the first time Zahu went to the sky, but he didn't dare to fly too high before. This was the first time he flew so high. Turning to look at Kona, he found that Kona who was always famous for her calmness and dignity, was like a little girl at this time, reaching out to grab the clouds passing by. Although she only grabbed nothing, she showed an innocent and pure smile on her face, as if she had really returned to her childhood. Zehu was stunned and couldn't help but kiss Kona on the face. Kona blushed and rolled her eyes charmingly. Zehu said, "What are you doing? Kiss you." Zehu approached confidently and lowered his head to kiss her again. Kona was surprised at first, but then she was immersed in it and responded eagerly. Whether it was her body or her heart, she had given it to him early in the morning, and she was at an altitude of who knows how many kilometers, so what else was there to worry about? After a long time, the two separated. Kona's delicate face was as rosy as the clouds, and she leaned gently in Zehu's arms like an ordinary happy little woman, whispering, "After this Johto competition is over, we will be separated for a while." She is one of the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto, and has her own things to do. Because she was afraid that Zehu would be attacked by the rocket team in Johto, Kona put down all her work and traveled with Zehu. Now Zehu is leaving Johto and going to Hone, and the rocket team has no power in the Hone area, so Kona can rest assured for the time being. Especially after the holiday, she has accumulated too much work during this period, and she must go back. After watching Zehu win the Johto championship, Kona will return to Kanto to do the accumulated work. It's okay, everyone can video call, and think about it, flying from Hone to Kanto is not very far. Zehu smiled and said that, but the reluctance on his expression can be seen by anyone who is not blind. Although they often separated in the past, the relationship is different now. Separation is naturally more reluctant. "Remember, don't cheat on me when you travel outside," Kona said. "Don't worry, with a wife like Sister Kona, I don't care about ordinary coquettish bitches." Zehu vowed to guarantee that this kind of question must be answered without hesitation. "I'll keep my word. I'll let Kajiro and Meow Meow watch you. And if you really can't help it, you can find Kajiro," Kona said. "Find Kajiro?" Zehu's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "Nothing." Kona looked innocent. "Nothing?" Zehu patted Lugia and said, "Xiaolu, go down and find a hotel. I'm going to make an anew for you." Lugia nodded. Although he didn't know how to make one, he understood the meaning of nephew. Chapter 254, Followers Gather. After being abandoned by Hanako and the other two, Zehu quickly calmed down and prepared for the next game. Unlike the Quartz Conference, the content of the Silver Conference is more standardized. First of all, unlike the Quartz Conference, where you can obtain the qualification to participate through the Pokémon Academy and Pokémon Certification exam, you can only enter the League Conference by challenging the gym. Secondly, because there is no Pokémon Academy and Pokémon Certification exam, it is difficult to determine the number of places. Unlike the Quartz Conference, which always has 256 people, it is not a simple one-on-one competition. Instead, it is divided into 3 parts: the selection meeting, the preliminary league, and the final championship. First, at the selection meeting, 48 people are selected. No matter how many people participate, only 48 people can be selected, which avoids the phenomenon of odd numbers and buys. Next, the preliminary league is divided into 16 districts, with 3 people in each district, and then cross matches are selected to select the highest score. Finally, the final championship is the same as the previous Quartz Conference. After completing the registration, Zehu prepared to participate in the selection meeting. The content of the selection meeting is also simple, that is, playing 3 games, and comprehensively considering the performance of the games, to select the best 48 people. The only bad thing is that the selection meeting is fast and the selection is large, so only 1 Pokémon can be used, and the winner is determined in 1 game. However, Zehu is confident that he can win 3 games in a row, so it doesn't matter at all. After hearing his name, Zehu walked towards a duel venue. The referee held a red and green flag and said, "Fair competition. Only 1 Pokémon will be played, and it will be decided by the roulette wheel. Attack first and then attack." As the voice fell, the red and green light flashed, and finally it was determined that the opponent player went first and Zehu went last. Oops. The opponent Hante's face was ugly. In the case of only being able to use 1 Pokémon, The latter attack undoubtedly has a great advantage and can target the opponent's Pokémon. Thinking of this, Hante had to throw out his strongest trump card, Kumaru. As soon as Kumaru appeared, he let out a fierce roar. Ikmeru, that's right, Lucario, go on. Zahu threw Lucario and said. Before the game, he took back several stored Pokémon from Professor Oak, and Lucario was one of them. Lucario appeared in the field with a tough face, and his eyes showed the fighting spirit of a fighter. Because of participating in the Silver Conference, Lucario finally took off the weight on his body, and now he felt extremely relaxed. Sure enough, you took out a fighting Pokémon, but Lucario has the Steel attribute after evolution, and it will also be restrained by the fighting attribute. Hante smiled and said, Circle Bear, use the arm punch. Circle Bear's thick right paw shone brightly, and it smashed towards Lucario with a ferocious face. Lightning flash. Zahu's unhurried voice sounded, and Lucario's figure suddenly moved, as fast as lightning, and slammed into Circle Bear's chest, and Circle Bear was immediately knocked out. Close combat, Zahu said. Lucario's figure flew in, and his fists like raindrops kept falling on Circle Bear. Circle Bear was in unbearable pain, but he had no power to resist, and was knocked to the ground soon. Bear, you lose your ability to fight. Zahu from Pallet Town wins. The referee made a fair decision, but he was also shocked. This duel was too fast. Hante, the player on the opposite side, looked at the powerful Lucario and swallowed hard. What kind of strength is the person on the opposite side? Even if it is attribute restraint, it can't be that strong. Zahu smiled and touched Lucario's head, turned and walked to the waiting area, ready to listen to the announcement of the next game. However, when he walked to the waiting area, he found that the people in the waiting area were very interesting. Xiaomao, Shinji, Xiaoxia, Xiaogang, Kenji, Shinji, Yuji, Tim, Shingo. All of them are people he knows. Hello, long time no see. Zahu smiled and waved. Seeing Zahu coming in, everyone's face changed. Xiaomao and Shinji, who have a good relationship with him, all called him Brother Zahu. Kenji and Yuji, who have a more distant relationship, just greeted him lightly. Then Shinji and Tim both looked repulsive. But it was different to say repulsive. Shinji was too lazy to talk, while Tim stared at Zahu and said, this time, I will defeat you. Defeat me? Who gave you the confidence? If Kikuno Tenno was here, I could still be serious. You. I hope you can beat the preliminaries. Zahu said disdainfully. Among all the people here, except for Xiaogang, who has not been breeding Pokémon recently, because he is a breeder and his strength is relatively poor. Among the other trainers, Tim is the weakest. I really don't know who gave him the courage. He is a relative of Kikuno Tenno, not a grandson, but he is so arrogant. Defeat Big Brother Zahu. Who are you? Shinji and Xiaomao's expressions changed. Zahu is the goal they are pursuing, but he is also the big brother they recognize. Now a guy who came out of nowhere actually said that he would defeat Zahu, and he is arrogant. He deserves a beating. Who are you? Tim was still proud. He's just a fool. If you meet him, help me clean him up. Anyway, anyone among you can deal with him. Zahu said indifferently. Who are you talking about as a fool? Tim said angrily. Don't talk nonsense. Stay away. If you really think you are so powerful, wait until you beat me and then humiliate me. Zahu said. Brother Zahu, don't worry. If you meet him in advance, I will help you deal with him. Shinji said. And me? Xiaomao said. I'm also a ground type. I can deal with even Tute and Gyarados. Xiaoxia also said. That's good. Zahu smiled and didn't take Tim too seriously. Instead, he looked at Shinde and the others and said, this time, I may play seriously, so work hard, otherwise you will be desperate. It's best to meet me in the pre-selection league, otherwise you will be easily beaten to autism by me. Desperate? I will make you despair first. Shinde said. Mega evolution? Indeed, among the people here, your strength should be the strongest, but Megalodon's Mega evolution is still a little weak. I'm looking forward to your performance. After all, I really want to fight against Pokémon from other regions. Zahu said. I will personally break your arrogance. Zende said. Then fight, but you may not meet me. After all, Xiaozi regards you as a strong rival and wants to defeat you. If you meet Xiaozi before meeting me, you may lose. Zahu said. Zyos' strong rival lore. All Zyos' strong rivals, no matter how strong they were before, will be defeated in the official league. And the more suppressed they are before, the more miserable they may die later. For example, Zeudi from the Unova region was very strong before joining the league, and Zyos was almost beaten out of his shadow. As a result, he fought with Zyos in the preliminary selection and was eliminated in the first round. Except for Alan from the Kalos region, who is called the screenwriter's own son, no one can break this law. Even Alan's breaking was questioned. So Shinde is in a bit of a suspense. Impossible, Shinde said proudly. By the way, speaking of Zyos, where is he? Zahu said. Seems he's still in the game. Gang said. Then let's go over and take a look. It's incredible that the preliminary round took so long. Zahu said. Zyos always made it through a round in large-scale competitions. Except for the Quartz Conference, the worst he could make was the quarterfinals. It was strange that he had been playing for so long now. That idiot, maybe he really met a strong opponent. Zyomeo cursed, but walked over with concern. Zahu smiled and took the initiative to walk over. Then, except for Tim, everyone, including Shinde, left. After all, everyone knew Zyos. Chapter 255. Zyos' power. Ryalu, use the power. Zahu and his men walked towards Zyos' competition venue. Before they arrived, they heard Zyos' voice. Zahu and his men immediately quickened their pace and walked over. They saw Zyos commanding Ryalu in the middle of the venue, and the one opposite him was a Snorlax. Snorlax is a normal attribute, and Ryalu is a fighting attribute. In terms of attributes, Zyos has the upper hand. Gang said, but the level gap is too big. The opponent is Snorlax, and this guy is just Ryalu. With such a big level difference, how can he fight? This kid, he won't really be able to make it through a round. Zyomeo frowned and said, usually bickering a lot, but secretly caring about each other. The situation in the scene was just as he said. Ryalu's power hit Snorlax's fat belly, but it didn't work at all, and was offset by Snorlax's fat. Then, Snorlax's million-ton punch blasted out, smashing Ryalu to the ground on the side. The selection meeting is similar to the qualifying competition. It is to select the best 48 people. Losing a game does not necessarily mean that you will not be able to enter. Kenji said. Don't be so harsh. This guy's different from ordinary people. The younger he is, the better he can fight. Shinde said. Huh, did I hear you right? Are you speaking for Zahu's brother? Kenji said with a surprised look. I'm just telling the truth. Shinde said with a sour face. At the beginning, he thought that Squirtle was easy to bully, but Greninja was defeated in shame. Zyos, come on, don't lose to the opponent, and show the strength of you and Ryalu. Zyosha couldn't help but shouted directly. Zyos turned around and found that Zahu and his men had come. He immediately said, I know, Ryalu, you can still fight. Ryalu stood up with determination in his eyes. It will not live up to Zyos' trust. Babies are just babies. They don't know the situation at all. They think that attribute restraint is enough. How naive. Zyos' opponent is a fat man similar to Snorlax. When he saw Zyos, he showed a mocking expression. Snorlax, let him see our true power. Earthquake. Snorlax heard this and immediately stomped the ground with his heavy feet. Suddenly, the whole earth shook violently. Ryalu was unstable and was hurt by waves of earthquake waves. Ryalu, come on, jump up. Zyos shouted. He obviously didn't need to speak to command Ryalu, but he got too excited and shouted loudly, and his blood surged. Then Ryalu felt his emotions and his fighting spirit also increased. Ryalu jumped up immediately, and then used various combat skills to attack Snorlax continuously. Although the punches were all hit in the stomach, the high frequency exceeded Ryalu's ability to withstand, causing effective damage to Snorlax. Snorlax's trainer's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, Snorlax, be serious, let that kid know your power. Taishan's though. As soon as the trainer's voice fell, Snorlax's body immediately pressed towards Ryalu who was attacking it frantically in front. Ryalu, get out of the way. Zyos shouted anxiously. Ryalu hurriedly tried to escape, but Snorlax's huge body pressed down. Although Ryalu was agile, he was still cruelly pressed down. but there was a loud bang, and Snorlax was pressed to the ground. The whole earth trembled, and the earth and rocks flew. It seems that this Snorlax usually eats well. Zahu frowned. There are many Pokémon who can use the trick of Taishan's Ho-Oh, but if you say who uses it most powerfully, Snorlax is the well-deserved champion. Xiaozi, you actually lost the first round. Xiaomeo and Shinji frowned. Winning and losing are common, especially for Xiaozi who likes to mess around. But he should still be qualified to continue participating. Don't worry too much, Zahu said. He didn't expect Xiaozi to lose in the first round, but there was nothing he could do. With Xiaozi's luck, he should be able to pass the selection meeting. Come on, Railu, try your best. Just when Zahu and others judged that Xiaozi had lost, Xiaozi was still shouting hard. Is this kid crazy? He was pressed by Snorlax like this, but he can still stand up. What kind of Railu is he? Tim said with disdain. Xiaozi. Xiaomeo also had a tone of disappointment. Shinji's expression became strange because he saw Zahu's expression and he started to feel strange. He asked curiously, Brother Zahu, Xiaozi can't really turn the tables, right? I don't know, maybe not, but it's possible. Have you forgotten that Xiaozi communicates with Railu through Wafa Guide? This kind of communication is the most real. He can clearly sense the specific real state of Railu. He is calling, which means that Railu has not completely lost its combat ability at least now, but after a while, whether it will explode in silence or die in silence, I don't know. You also know that Xiaozi is hard to describe. Zahu smiled bitterly. Shinji nodded as if he understood and continued to watch the game. If Zahu is the target he is chasing, then Xiaozi is his rival. Baby, with your strength, you'd better not come to the Silver Conference. Go home and play with your baby. I will win this game. Xiaozi's opponent said proudly. No, my Railu is very strong. Xiaozi shouted vigorously. Railu, get up. With a roar, a large piece of white light suddenly appeared under Snorlax. Zahu's pupils shrank. Just now, he didn't know if it was an illusion. He felt a force on Xiaozi's body and the Railu under Snorlax began to resonate. White light emerged, and Snorlax, who was lying on the ground, was suddenly knocked up. A strong figure appeared at the same place. Lucario. Xiaozi's Railu evolved. Seeing this miraculous reversal, whether it was Xiaozi's opponent or the group of people watching, they were all stunned and couldn't say a word of surprise. This is alright. Lucario, I knew you could do it. Now use the tile split. Xiaozi shouted excitedly. Hearing this, Lucario immediately jumped up and quickly jumped into the air. His right hand was shining, and he hit Snorlax violently, knocking Snorlax to the ground. There was another loud noise, and the whole earth was shaking. Snorlax showed a pair of circular eyes. I won already? Xiaomeo looked like he had seen a ghost. This is a very characteristic battle of Xiaozi. After thinking for a while, Shinji could only come up with this sentence. Zahu didn't say anything, and there was a doubt in his eyes. Was the power just now the power of bondage or the power of wave? Or both? And if wave can make Railu evolve into Lucario, can wave be used for super evolution? This is a very serious and research-worthy question, but Zahu can't find the answer for the time being. However, watching this game, Zahu can also be sure that Xiaozi's Lucario will be very different. Xiaozi picked up a loophole, except for the fact that the fried pig was a little worse. The rest was not simple, especially the wave. If the wave on Xiaozi can be used quantitatively, I'm afraid it will not be worse than the average mythical beast. This guy is a humanoid mythical beast, and Lucario can use Xiaozi's wave. Zahu raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a hint of interest and said, this competition should be very interesting. Chapter 256. The baby dragon is in hand. The gamble of the kings. Puffed is incapable of fighting. The winner is Zahu from Pallet Town. The referee made the decision. Zahu calmly took back Pockets and walked towards the hall. This was the third contestant he had defeated, so the selection meeting was over. The next step was the preliminary league. Congratulations, Dr. Zahu, you have obtained the pass to enter the preliminary league. As Zahu entered the hall, Genji's voice rang out. Zahu turned around and found that Genji and Mikali were walking towards him together. King Genji, Mr. Mikali. Seeing Genji, Zahu felt a little guilty, but he did not show it on his face. He took the initiative to greet him. I have met Haoi. His strength has improved a lot compared to before. All of this is thanks to your teaching. Genji said. I have already met him, so does the king really not mind what he is doing now? Zahu asked directly. Give him to Dr. Zahu, and I will choose to trust Dr. Zahu unconditionally. Dr. Zahu will definitely be able to teach him well. I'm suspicious, but isn't that a suspicion of Dr. Zahu? Genji said with a smile. Dr. Zahu was stunned and thought, this is too easy to talk to. If the parents in the previous life were like this, there wouldn't be so many naughty children. By the way, this is the baby dragon promised to Dr. Zahu. Genji took out a Pokeball and released a 6 cm tall bipedal dragon. Baby dragon, this is your future trainer. Genji handed the Pokeball to Zahu and said to Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon tilted its head and thought for a while, as if it didn't quite understand. Zahu smiled and picked up Baby Dragon, touched its head, and said with a gentle smile, that is to say, I will take care of you and protect you in the future. We are called partners in life and death. Feeling the kindness released by Zahu, Baby Dragon showed a happy expression and took the initiative to rub Zahu's body with its little head. Good boy. Zahu smiled. Training young Pokémon in their first form is a very troublesome thing because young Pokémon basically don't have any particularly strong power. It takes time and effort to train them. They can't form effective combat power for a long time. Compared with those Pokémon that have finally evolved, they need to invest twice as much energy. But in fact, there are many trainers who are willing to train young Pokémon. A very important reason is a bond. The younger the Pokémon that is captured is, the easier it is for the Pokémon to form a deep dependence on humans. Zyoz's Pokémon has a high bond with him, and to a large extent, it is because Zyos basically captured them in their initial form. If it were an adult Pokémon, it would be difficult to have a high bond. The role of bond in Pokémon duels is self-evident. This child is only 1 month old, and it is the time when he is closest to people. I believe that Dr. Zahu can definitely train it into a great violent salamander. Genji said. I will definitely not let the king down. Zahu said. Baby Dragonite can only fly if it evolves to the 3rd form. He was determined to let Baby Dragonite evolve into a violent salamander. After Zahu chatted with Genji and Mikali for a while, everyone dispersed. After all, the two sides were not very close. After Zahu left, Mikali asked Genji curiously, are you really not angry at all that Haoi went to sell things? This is not in line with your style at all. Being a coordination trainer is better than being a peddler. I would rather he be a peddler than a coordination trainer. Genji said. Hey, what you said is too much. What, do you look down on us coordination trainers? Do you want to duel? Mikali said with a dissatisfied look on his face. You are getting more and more outrageous. Do you look down on us coordination trainers so much? He's obviously a sideline job as a hawker, and he's still a trainer. Being a coordinator trainer is his main job. Can they be confused? Seeing that Mikali was really angry, Genji explained. That's right, but you can tolerate being a hawker, that's enough. Mikali suddenly realized. What does it matter? It's not shameful to make money with your own hands. Besides, if you let him run a business, he will understand that it's not easy to make money, and then he will have a desire for money and a strong desire to win in his heart. Once he has a strong pursuit of power, he will not look down on you coordinators. Genji said. You think a lot. Mikali was shocked. He didn't expect that Genji could think so much about such a simple thing. Although he thought the logical relationship was a bit nonsense, Mikali felt that Genji was always nonsense when it came to things involving Hiroya's youngest son, so he was not surprised. But if you want to fight me, there's no problem. I've wanted to duel with you for a long time. Come on. Genji said. No, I didn't say anything just now. Mikali denied hurriedly. Am I stupid to fight with you, the strongest king of Hone, for no reason? Your violent salamander is famous for its thick skin, okay? No matter whether we win or lose, my Milotic will have to stay in the Pokémon Center for a few days. There is no benefit, and it is not a king challenge. Why fight? Don't come on, don't I know your strength? Stop talking nonsense, start fighting quickly, Genji urged. In fact, He wanted to beat Mikali early in the morning, but he had no reason. Now that Mikali said he would fight, of course he couldn't miss it. No, this is not somewhere else. It is the venue for the Silver Conference. If we go all out and destroy the venue, it will affect the most important event of the Johto Alliance. The two of us will be blacklisted in Johto, and we will also leave the image of Hone people as unreasonable in the hearts of the people of Johto. In this case, we will become the sinners of Hone, Mikali said with a bursting desire to survive. Genji showed a hesitation on his face. Although he knew that Mikali was talking nonsense, the venue was indeed not suitable. It was a bit disrespectful for the tournament for the two famous kings of Hone to fight with all their strength here. And there are a lot of kings here now. There are from all over the place. Not to mention the 5 local kings in Johto. There is Kona in Kanto, and even the Ground King of SYNOPSIS, Granny Kikuno, is here. The internal fight between the two of us in Hone will really make us laugh, Mikali said. We'll fight when we get back. After hearing Mikali's words, and thinking about the current situation, Genji finally gave up the idea of continuing the challenge. Now that the champions of the kings of the 4 regions are here, the 2 kings of Hone are naturally embarrassed to fight among themselves first. That's right, let's go in and participate in the gambling game. Hearing that Genji finally gave up the idea of a duel, Mikali breathed a sigh of relief and quickly changed the subject. He thought to himself, as soon as the game is over, I will go to Sinnoh immediately and see if you can find me. Gambling? What gambling game? There is such a thing in the silver tournament? Genji said with a strange look on his face. It's always been like this. Several kings made a bet together to guess who will be the champion this year. I heard that several kings in Johto use the ranking of the favorites to determine the amount of tasks for next year. You also know that the kings in Kanto Johto are short of manpower. Michael said. I see. I thought so. But is it necessary to bet this year? Since Dr. Zehu is participating, the championship is his. What's there to guess? Genji said. So guess who will be the runner-up? And it seems that Do has developed a new way to play, estimating how many Pokémon Zehu can send in a game. There are even bigger bets. If you bet on Zehu to lose, the reward is really big and you will get a mini dragon. However, you have to bet on the same level of Pokémon or props. For example, you have to bet on the dragon. Michael said. He often came to Kanto Johto to promote the gorgeous competition, so he was familiar with several kings in Kanto Johto. It's so interesting, let's go and have fun. Genji said. As a man of the sea, he was born with the gene of adventure in his blood. Gambling is an adventurous thing that suits him naturally. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Opening Ceremony. The list of players who passed the preliminaries is finally out. As expected, all of them have entered, Zehu said as he looked at the list of players that appeared on the display screen in the hall. It must be said that the efficiency of the Silver Conference is really high. The competition of more than 200 people lasted only 2 days, and 48 players who participated in the Pokémon Preliminary League were selected. Okay, we have all entered the competition. Next, Shinde, I want to challenge you, and I will beat you. He looked at Shinde and said, your strength is far from enough. Shinde shook his head disdainfully and looked at Zehu and said, Zehu, listen carefully, in this game, I will let you know my true strength. One by one, but he beat you. I think it is very likely, but you want to beat me. It is impossible. Zehu said. Yes, you can't beat my brother. Zehu said. You are a defeated opponent. Wait until you can beat me before you talk about it. Shinde said unhappily. My brother never hurts any of me when he fights me, and if you didn't have a super evolution, you wouldn't necessarily be able to beat me. And my brother didn't take it seriously when he fought you. He said. Not seriously? What do you mean? Shinayo frowned. My brother, 6 divine beasts, can you do it? He said. What did you say? 6 divine beasts. When he said this, not only Shinayo, but also Xiaomao, Shinji, and Kenji were all shocked. 6 divine beasts. Are you still human? Zyozzy. Zyraksha pulled Zyozzy. Although she knew that Zyozzy was straightforward, it was wrong to reveal Zahu's trump card so directly. Zyozzy was glared at by Zyraksha, and then he realized that he had said the wrong thing, and he quickly shut up. Okay, Zyozzy is straightforward and speaks without thinking. I know it too. Zahu smiled. Yes, brother, you won't blame me. Zyozzy immediately became passionate again. HMM. Zahu frowned, and his murderous eyes swept over immediately. It's not your fault, you're just being reckless, right? It seems that you've been lacking a beating from society recently. Zyozzy shrank back in fear and said quickly, brother, I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Brother Zahu, don't scold Zyozzy first. Do you really have 6 legendary beasts? Shinji said. He knew that Zahu had many legendary beasts, but he didn't expect that there were 6. It's meaningless for you to ask this question, because if I'm serious, none of you can force me to use 4 Pokémon, so it doesn't matter how many legendary beasts I have. On the contrary, Zyozzy has 2 legendary beasts. Zahu said. Ah, Zyozzy also has 2. Zyomeo screamed. He always knew that Zahu had legendary beasts. Although he was shocked that it went from 4 to 6, he didn't accept that Zyozzy had 1. Zyozzy also? Shinji repeated, turning his head to look at Zyozzy. Like Zyomeo, he accepted that Zahu had 1, but he didn't accept that Zyozzy had 1. Shinji also showed a bit of caution. 2 beasts, if this is the case, maybe they can really defeat him. Zahu saw this and showed a smug smile on his face. This is the right operation. Just be annoyed. Although I don't care about exposing the fact that I have 6 beasts, your outspokenness sometimes really needs to be cured. Just bear it now. Okay, have a good rest tonight and prepare for tomorrow's opening ceremony. If you are really too free, you can go back to the room to investigate your opponent's information. Zahu put his hands in his pockets and walked out casually. Compared with the Quartz Conference, the Silver Conference is much more reliable. Near the Silver Stadium, there are many hotels that provide free accommodation for contestants and their companions, and there are free computers in the dormitories, which is convenient for trainers to check the opponent's information and make specific arrangements for the competition. Then Zyozzy struggled to leave, but no one dared to stop Zahu. Who dared to stop Zyozzy? Zyomeo and Shinji took the lead in asking for information, and it would be best if they also asked for Zahu's information. A day passed in such a dull manner. Until the next day, at the opening ceremony, the 48 people who passed the selection meeting entered the venue one after another. Then, just like the Quartz Conference, the sacred ignition was turned on. However, Kanto's fire was Moltres' fire, while here it was Ho-Oh's fire. All the contestants who passed the selection meeting, Ho-Oh's sacred fire is watching you here. Please be sure to show your strongest strength. The speaker on the podium was still President Damuranchi, who spoke at the Quartz Conference. Kanto City is really not an inseparable family in the general sense. Although what Damuranchi said was a bit simple and even sounded a bit old-fashioned in Zahu's ears, the other contestants who came to participate in the competition were all full of enthusiasm and passion. There is no way. They are full of vigor and vitality, just like when they were young. Like Zyozzy, he almost combusted. But Zahu, among this group of burning bodies, seemed a bit out of place. In fact, he knew that Ho-Oh had decided to move. I really don't know what expressions these people who cheered for the flame of the Ho-Oh would have when they knew that the guardian god they had been looking forward to, the Ho-Oh, had given up Johto and was planning to move to a new home. Shaking his head slightly, he suddenly felt a ray of light sweeping over him. He looked up slightly and found that it was Kona who was looking at him. Zahu had no choice but to pretend to be listening obediently. All contestants must fight here in an upright manner. You are not allowed to use any shady means that violate the fairness of the competition. This time, the referees are not only our Johto champion Mr. Watari and the 4 Heavenly Kings, but also the Ice Heavenly King Kona from Kanto, the Dragon Heavenly King Genji from Hone, the Water Heavenly King Mikali, and the Ground Heavenly King Kikuno from Sinnoh. Every time Damuranki read out a name, the light on the stage gathered on a Heavenly King. Most of the contestants below the stage saw so many Heavenly King champions for the first time. Although they did not make any sound due to the rules of the competition, they all breathed rapidly, and their expressions were excited, and they wanted to shout. The Tenno, in a general sense, is the highest honorary title a trainer can achieve in his lifetime. Of course, Zehu, who is already used to dealing with Tenno champions, and has even insulted many champions, is very calm. He is even thinking that President Demerici mentioned the names when he introduced Du, and also mentioned the names of Kona and the others, but when he mentioned Rika and the others as the 4 Tenno, he used the 3 words 4 Tenno to summarize them all. He wondered if Rika and the others would start to tease Demerici in a while. When he looked up at the Tenno, Zehu found that it was true. Although everyone was smiling because of the lights, the smiles of Rika and the others were very subtle. It's a pity that he has to participate in the competition and can't play. But when he thought that the people around him in the next few days would be his opponents, Zehu became happy again. The next few days would be his real stage, and it would be fun. There are 5 more in the afternoon. Chapter 258 Pre-Selection Alliance. At the A Stadium, the first match of Group A will now officially begin, with Zehu from Pallet Town competing against Xiaofeng from Fallen Leaf Town. After the opening ceremony, the roster was reorganized for another day, and the preliminary league finally officially began. 3 people were in a group, and they played alternately. Winning a game earned 3 points, a tie earned 1 point, and a loss earned no points. The one with the highest score won. In other words, winning 2 games in a row would win. Today was Zehu's first match. The red and green turntables on the display screen turned quickly, deciding who would attack first and who would attack later. Red side, Xiaofeng, attack first. The referee said. Xiaofeng, who was opposite Zehu, was a boy about the same age as Xiaozi. After hearing that he was the first to send out a Pokémon, he did not show any special expression. The preliminary league was 3 against 3, unlike the one-on-one in the selection meeting, so the advantage of attacking first and attacking later was not that great. My first Pokémon is this, Pikachu. Xiaofeng took out a Pokémon ball. Pikachu jumped into the field, and the 2 red electric bags on his cheeks flashed with strong electricity. Pikachu. Dragonite, make your first battle beautifully. Zehu threw Dragonite. The preliminary league was divided into 16 regions, just for comprehensive strength, so Zehu's opponents would not be very strong, just in time to train new pets. Dragonite. Xiaofeng, the player on the opposite side, looked at Dragonite with a puzzled expression on his face, but he had never seen it before. He quickly took out the Pokémon Pokédex, but found that there was no information about it in the Pokédex, and he couldn't help but frown. Dragonite is a stone Pokémon. It often hits its head against rocks, so its head is trained and harder than steel. It is a dragon Pokémon in the Hone region. Your Pokédex should only record Pokémon from the Kanto and Johto regions, so there is no information about it. Zehu saw Xiaofeng's confused look and explained. Thank you. Xiaofeng said politely. Zehu, you are worthy of being the youngest doctor in the league. Without Xiaofeng's knowledge, you took the initiative to introduce the news of Dragonite. Dragonite is the original form of the violent salamander that is as famous as Johto Bangara. The voice of the commentator sounded at the right time, solving the doubts for all the audience. Pikachu, use 100,000 volts. Xiaofeng was the first to issue an attack command. A strong yellow electric current burst out from the electric bag on Pikachu's cheek, and it attacked Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon, use headbutt. Zehu said. The strong electric current hit Baby Dragon, but it stood still, but there was no obvious pain on its face. Then its 2 short legs moved quickly, and it pointed its head forward, hitting Pikachu like a cannonball. Not every Pikachu is like Xiaozi's Pikachu, who can move ground-type Pikachu. Except for the electric shock monsters, it completely ignores the attributes. Pikachu, who had just used 100,000 volts, stopped moving. Baby Dragon's hard head hit Pikachu's petite body. Pikachu screamed in pain and was knocked aside, then stood up with difficulty. Pikachu, use lightning flash. Xiaofeng shouted. Pikachu shook his head quickly to regain consciousness and then turned into a white light and hit Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon, lower your head. Zehu said. Baby Dragon was a little surprised, but he still followed Zahu's instructions, lowered his head, and used it as a shield. Then Pikachu rushed over quickly and hit Baby Dragon's head violently. Then there was a loud bang, and Baby Dragon's body was knocked back, leaving 2 deep skid marks on the ground. Pikachu, use 100,000 volts. Xiaofeng continued to order, but after the order was issued, Pikachu did not respond for a long time, and then saw Pikachu's eyes were dizzy. It seemed that there were stars flying above his head, and he was shaking every 3 steps, as if he was about to fall down at the next moment. On the other hand, Baby Dragon just shook his head slightly, as if nothing had happened. Oh, no. Pikachu took the initiative to use Lightning Flash to hit Baby Dragon, but it hit Baby Dragon's hardest head. This is not good. Baby Dragon's skull is harder than steel. Pikachu can no longer execute Xiaofeng's order this time. The commentator's voice sounded at the right time to answer the doubts of all the audience. Zahu showed a faint smile on his face. The characteristics of Baby Dragon are all hard heads. Although the characteristics have nothing to do with the head, the name alone can tell how hard the head is. Even though this Baby Dragon was born not long ago and has not been trained much in terms of hardness, it is not comparable to Pikachu's body. Even if the lightning speeds up, inertia has nothing to do with speed. On the contrary, the action of force is mutual. An egg actively hits a piece of iron. Even if the egg moves at a high speed and the iron does not move, the egg will still break in the end. Finally, headbutt, Zahu said. Baby Dragon nodded his head, showing a happy expression, and then hit Pikachu fiercely. Pikachu was knocked away and fell to the ground, with his eyes turned into circles. Pikachu, lose the ability to fight. The referee made a timely decision. Come back, Pikachu. You've worked hard. Xiaofeng took Pikachu back and said to Zahu, "Drive Zahu, you are really amazing. You are worthy of being the youngest doctor in the league and the champion of the last quartz conference." However, the next one to appear is Magnetron. Magnetron floated in the air, with electric light flashing on its body, showing dangerous electric light to Baby Dragon. Magnetron? Its electric attribute again. It seems that you specialize in electric attribute Pokémon. Zahu said. Yes, I think the electric attribute is the strongest attribute. Xiaofeng said. Then Baby Dragon, use all your strength. Zahu said. Use the headbutt again. Baby Dragon speeded up, its head glowed, and it slammed into it. Magnetron, get out of the way quickly. Xiaofeng said. Magnetron immediately floated to the side to avoid it. Next triangle attack. Xiaofeng said. The 3 small magnetrons of Magnetron condensed into a triangular energy body and then hit Baby Dragon accurately, sending Baby Dragon to the wall on one side, and Baby Dragon fell down helplessly. Baby Dragon loses its ability to fight. Magneto wins. The referee ruled again. Okay, this time it's Zahu's turn to defeat Baby Dragon. What will Zahu do next? The commentator's voice sounded. Zahu took Baby Dragon back and said some comforting words. It was just born not long ago, and he hadn't started training yet. Its strength was a little weak, and it couldn't be blamed on Baby Dragon. Next, Leaf King, come out and move. Zahu threw Leaf King, who hadn't been used for a long time. Leaf King appeared on the field with a bang. As usual, he supported his head with his hands and dozed off there. Leaf King? This Hone Pokémon, a normal type, you can treat it as Snorlax. Zahu knew that Xiaofeng didn't know the situation, so he simply explained it to him again. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. Xiaofeng was a little embarrassed. He didn't know about Zahu's 2 consecutive Pokémon, and he had to be reminded by Zahu. This was a failure as an opponent. He just secretly vowed to go to the Hone area in the future to gain more experience. Magnamon, use electromagnetic waves. Xiaofeng was the first to attack. A pale blue electric current emanated from Magneto, covering the surroundings, but the King of Leave was still dozing off, seemingly unaffected. What a powerful King of Leave, worthy of being the main trump card that once helped Dr. Zahu reach the quarterfinals. Magneto has almost no effect on its attacks. How will Xiaofeng respond? The commentator passionately explained. Then, Zahu had a calm expression and had no intention of issuing an attack order. Magnamon, use triangle attack. Seeing that the electromagnetic wave was ineffective, Xiaofeng issued an attack order again, and Magneto's triangle energy attacked the King of Leave, but the King of Leave still did not seem to wake up. Magnemon, 100,000 volts. The successive attacks did not cause any effective damage to the King of Leave, and Xiaofeng could not help but become a little anxious, constantly issuing attack orders. But the King of Leave was just lying there, dozing off whether you hit him or not, and it seemed to have no effect. After a while, even the audience felt a little bored, and the commentator didn't know how to explain. Zahu finally ordered, Ada, you don't feel sleepy after so much, right? In this case, concentrate on hitting hard. Hearing Zahu's order, the dozing King of Leave finally opened his eyes, his right fist flashed with a strong white light, and he stood up suddenly and punched Magnetron with a lightning fast punch. After one punch, Magnetron fell to the ground, revealing his circular eyes. Magnetron lost his ability to fight, and King of Leave won. The referee ruled, Zahu is really good. He deliberately let the King of Leave suffer combat damage to dispel King of Leave's sleepiness. He is really unconventional and deserves to be the former champion of the Quartz Conference. Seeing that the situation finally changed, the commentator said excitedly, knocked down with one punch? Xiaofeng looked surprised, as if he couldn't accept this fact. Obviously, I was the one who kept attacking just now, so why did I lose when King of Leave hit back with one punch? He shook his head, threw all the unnecessary emotions out of his mind, released his last Pokémon and said, Electivus, try your best, show the power of an electric Pokémon. Electivus? Is this just your main force? If it's convenient, you'd better go to Sinnoh. Sinnoh has researched a way to make Electivus evolve further. Zahu said. Is there any evolution of Electivus in Sinnoh? Xiaofeng was surprised, and then said solemnly, I understand, I will try my best, but Dr. Zahu, even if Electivus has not evolved, it is not so easy to deal with. Right, Electivus. Electivus smashed his fists, revealing a strong electric light, and stared at the lazy gorilla in front of him. Electivus, 100,000 volts. Xiaofeng said, and the antenna-like horns on the top of Electivus's head emitted a strong electric current, heading straight for the King of Leave. King of Leave, open your hands and block it all. Zahu said. The King of Leave immediately pushed forward his two broad palms, isolating all the electric current outside the body surface, and then separated his hands, and his body was not damaged at all. Leave King, earthquake. Zahu said. After hearing this, Leave King immediately jumped up and stomped on the ground hard. The entire ground shook violently, and the strong earthquake wave spread in all directions. Electabuzz was immediately affected and showed a painful expression. Destruction Death Beam. Zahu said. Leave King opened his mouth wide, and a powerful golden energy beam burst out, hitting Electabuzz's body. Electabuzz fell down with a bang, and completely lost its ability to fight. Leave King won, and the one who advanced was Zahu from Pallet Town. The commentator explained loudly. Chapter 259 Tim is beaten and cries. Dr. Zahu, your King of Leave is really strong. I believe you will definitely win the championship this time. Xiaofeng took back the Electabuzz and said to Zahu. Thank you for your blessing. You are also very strong. Work hard and move towards becoming the King of Electricity. Zahu said with a smile. King of Electricity, thank you Dr. Zahu for your encouragement. Xiaofeng bowed to Zahu seriously. After the fierce competition, he was convinced by Zahu. In this game, except for the first round, which can be regarded as a contest, the other two rounds were all unilaterally beaten by Zahu. The huge difference in strength made this game impossible to be a competition. However, Zahu gained a little fan. The kings who acted as authoritative judges next to him saw this scene and their expressions were also strange. This guy is a natural king. Not only is he strong, but he also gives gentle and correct guidance to new trainers. Shiba said. This is also the responsibility of the doctor, to give correct guidance to the younger generation. On the other hand, the kings, even if they become kings, may not give serious guidance. Kona jokingly glanced at the two Hone kings next to him. I have always been patient in guiding the coordination of trainers. Macaulay corrected. The premise is that they can find you, right? Every time the Macaulay competition starts, you have to disappear first. Yoshu said. The fans are too enthusiastic, you can't blame me. Besides, everyone here has the right to criticize me, but you, who escaped like me, how can you have the right to criticize me? Mikali said disdainfully. Just because this is Johto, my territory, Yushu said proudly. You are discriminating against the region, right? Don't forget, there are only 5 kings in Johto here, and there are also 4 in other regions. It's not a big disadvantage whether we fight in batches, Mikali said. Mikali is really confident about this. Although there are only 4 kings from other regions, the number is a little small, but each of them is the best among the kings, especially Genji, Mikali, and Kona, all of whom have the strength to challenge the championship, and the overall quality of the 5 opponents is not as good as the 4 of them, so it's really not a disadvantage to fight against them. Kanto and Johto are 1, so if we want to fight, it's 6 against 3. Yushu corrected. 5 against 4, the advantage is really not big, but 6 against 3, we can beat you. Stop arguing. You are all kings. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Do stop, Tim unhappily. That's right, if you want to fight, just go down and fight, don't talk nonsense. Lihua said, hoping that the world would not be in chaos. Don't come either. It's agreed that everything will be bet on this bet. You have chosen your people, right? Let's wait for the results of the game to come out, and then decide on the bet. At that time, whoever loses will admit it. Kona said. I'll give you face. Anyway, Zyos's brother's performance is not bad, at least he can be ranked 4th and 2nd. Lihua said calmly. She acted quickly. She learned from Zyojiro and others that Zyos had Suicune, and she immediately placed a bet. She was very calm, and there would definitely not be much work next year. It's not bad to snatch Zyossi, but fortunately there is Zyuksha. Zahu and the other 3 made it to the finals, and Zyuksha made it to the quarterfinals. Kona said. Because Zahu was too obvious, she couldn't just choose Zahu, so she added an additional condition and chose Zyuksha. With Zahu and the other 3 making it to the finals, and Zyuksha making it to the quarterfinals, her work next year will be a little lighter. Yes, it's a bet. I choose Kenji. He must be stronger than the junior you chose, Mikali said. That's not necessarily the case. We'll know when we compete, Kazuki said. Speaking of which, King Kikuno, the people we chose, are all known to everyone, and are relatively familiar. Only the one you chose was not your relative, the kid named Tim, but Shinji. Mikali asked curiously. I don't know this kid, but I know his brother Lee C. He is a very good trainer. He is targeting Lee C and Zahu, so his strength will not be bad, Kikuno said. Among his peers, Shinji's theory should be the first. Kona made some additions. You admitted it. It seems that we were a little bit mistaken, Aju said in surprise. Okay, stop talking. Let's see how the players you picked are doing on the broadcast screen. From here on, the other players, except Zahu, will gradually reveal their strengths. You can also see if your vision is good, Du said. The second group of the E area is a bit interesting. The players on both sides are Zyuksha, who was selected by Kona, and Tim, the junior of the King of Kikuno. Ziba suddenly said. Really? Let's see. A group of people looked over curiously. In the game on the other side, the game between Zyuksha and Tim has also come to an end. Tim lost Hippoman and Scorpio, and Zyuksha lost Milotic and Starfish. Both sides have only 1 Pokémon left. Next, I'm using the grass type Tite Turtle. Your attribute restraint is no longer effective against me. On the contrary, Tite Turtle's grass attribute attack can restrain your Pokémon. I want to see what else your water type Pokémon can do, Tim said with a gloomy face. Zyuksha's strength is much stronger than he thought, but Tim still has his own confidence. You can't do that. I'm not afraid of even electric attribute Pokémon, let alone you who has both grass and attributes. Let me show you my blue sweetheart, Gyarados. Zyuksha threw the Pokéball of Gyarados. After traveling in 3 regions, especially learning from Kona recently, Zyuksha is no longer the same as before. Raw Zyuksha and Gyarados also roared as soon as they appeared, to show their domineering aura. Turtwig roared back, and its huge turtle head showed a fierce expression. Turtwig was originally a Pokémon with a nasty face, but a kind heart, but Tim's Pokémon is different from ordinary Turtwigs. Instead, his personality is a bit domineering like Kuma. Turtwig, use Sun Blaze. Tim launched an attack brazenly, and he started with a grass-type ultimate move. Gyarados, pray for rain. Xyloxia also issued an order. Gyarados roared, and dark clouds gathered over the field, covering the sky. Rain was flying, and there was no sunlight. The big tree on the back of the turtle, that was absorbing sunlight, suddenly dimmed. In front of Gyarados, the sunshine flame is useless. Xyloxia said proudly. Without sunlight, where can the sunshine flame come from? Turtles, use Leaf Storm. The failure of the first round of attack did not hit Tim too hard. He was more or less trained, and he quickly organized a second round of attack. The trees on the back of the turtle flashed green light, and large pieces of green energy condensed flying leaves shot towards Gyarados. Gyarados, water cannon. Xyloxia fought back without being outdone. A thick column of water shot out from the mouth of Gyarados, confronting the green light head-on. Soon after, it pressed all the way over and hit the turtle, knocking the turtle away. The huge body slid on the ground for a while before stopping. In rainy weather, not only can Sunshine Blaze not be used, but the power of water attributed moves is also increased. Naturally, Tute, who is about the same strength as Gyarados, can't resist it. Tute showed an angry expression. Although the water cannon is very powerful, Tute is not afraid of water, because it has the grass attribute. On the contrary, before the water on the tree on its back is absorbed, the water attribute has limited damage to it, so the damage just now made it want to fight more. Tute, use Earthquake. Tim shouted. Although the ground is ineffective against the flying type, Gyarados is a fake flying. Most of its body is on the ground, and it can't fly into the sky at all. It is immune to ground attacks. Tute immediately shook its limbs, and the strong earthquake wave destroyed the surroundings. Gyarados, use Bounce. Facing Tim's strong attack, Xyloxia was not panicked, but showed an expression of expected. After hearing this, Gyarados immediately leaped up, flying in the sky, perfectly avoiding the earthquake wave of Tutaster, and then hit Tutaster heavily. Tutaster's whole body sank, and its face was in pain. Bounce is a flying attack, and with the weight of Gyarados, it was not easy to cause damage to it. Tutaster. Tim showed a panic in his expression. He didn't expect Gyarados to have the skill of bouncing. Although research shows that Gyarados can learn this trick, it is just research. In fact, Gyarados is so big that it doesn't have limbs to use as leverage, and not many people can do this trick. Next, Storm. Xyloxia shouted. Gyarados roared, and the ground was blown. A strong tornado suddenly appeared, carrying rain and trapping Tutaster in the storm. The storm was strong, like a sharp blade. Tutaster tried to break free, but found that it couldn't break the strong wind. After holding on for a while, it fell down heavily. Tutaster has lost its ability to fight, and Gyarados wins. The referee announced. Xyloxia proudly took back the Gyarados, and said to Tim, work hard to improve your strength, and don't aim too high. You can't even beat me. How can you beat Brother Zahoo? This is just your luck. If your Gyarados didn't happen to have so many flying type moves to restrain my tortoise, how could you beat me? Tim asked unwillingly. You idiot. Gyarados has flying attributes, and using Storm can add bonuses. Why don't you learn it? This is Brother Zahoo's routine operation. As for jumping, it is indeed something I learned specifically to deal with someone, but compared to him, you are too bad at using tortoise. Xyloxia shook her head and left him alone. It seems that Xyloxia is still upset about the battle at the Quartz conference. Kona watched the broadcast with a smile on his face. Looking at Tim's performance, I finally know why King Kikuno gave up. Shiba said. I hope this failure will make him understand what a trainer should learn. Kikuno said. But these competitions are still very interesting, and many newcomers are rising. Do said. It would be better if there were more top players, so that I can retire. Ziba said with an irritated face. He was the top player in 2 places, and Kona took a leave, and Do was absent from work. He was so annoyed that he almost collapsed recently. Everyone knew his situation and smiled kindly. Chapter 260, Psychic Rival. The second match of Group A in Zone A begins, with Zuwu from Manjin City playing against Zahoo from Pallet Town. On the field, the commentator briefly explained the situation of the 2 players. Zahu also looked at his opponent, the second and last opponent of the pre-selected league, with the same hedgehog head as Xiaomao. He looked younger than Xiaomao, probably just turned 10 years old, and his strength was not much higher. Most likely, he was a worse player selected by the league to compete with him. After all, competing with himself is no different from ending the game. On the display on the side, the electronic turntable that determines the first attack stopped. Zahu was unlucky and had to attack first. Thinking of this, he threw Lucario's Pokeball. After all, Pokédragon was too young, so after thinking about it, Zahu handed it to Meow Meow and the others to take care of it, and Lucario acted as the vanguard. Lucario, you are indeed a strong opponent, but I like fighting types the most. Zuwu, who was on the opposite side, looked at Lucario and nodded, as if he had been prepared, and said, "Come out, Shyadrank." After throwing the Pokeball, Thin Sparrow flew out, with a calm expression, as if he had seen through the world. Facing Zahu's Lucario, Zuwu sent out the Psychic type and Flying type Shyadrank, which is very advantageous in terms of attributes. How will Zahu respond? 4 times resistance to fighting type attacks. It seems that Lucario is not very lucky. Zahu showed a hint of interest on his face. Shyadrank, use Strange Light. Zuwu took the lead in issuing an attack command. Shyadrank's eyes, which saw through the world, emitted a strange light and directly covered Lucario. Lucario, dodge, and then use Comet Punch. Zahu said. Lucario moved suddenly, as fast as the wind, and quickly dodged the strange light emitted by Shyadrank, then jumped high. His right fist flashed with white light, and punched Shyadrank, knocking Shyadrank to the ground. With a muffled sound, Shyadrank lay on the ground with circles under his eyes. Zahu is worthy of being the champion of the last Quartz Conference. He defeated Shyadrank so easily. It seems that, even if there is an unfavorable difference in attributes, the level of both sides is the key to victory. The commentator explained hard. Zuwu was surprised. He didn't expect that his Shyadrank would be knocked down so quickly. He immediately took back Shyadrank and released a Kirin Key. Kirin Key appeared on the field and let out a slight hiss at Lucario, another Pokémon with psychic attributes. It seems that you specialize in psychic Pokémon. Zahu said. Yes, the first Pokémon that every trainer in our village gets is of psychic attribute, so our goal is to become a master of psychic attribute Pokémon, to become someone like Master Yishu. Zuwu explained. So that's how it is. Zahu nodded in understanding, and then said to Lucario, power up punch. Lucario rushed towards Kirin Key at a high speed, with a dazzling light coming from his right hand. Kirin Key, use mental power. Zuwu quickly gave the order. Kirin Key raised his head, and strange mental power rushed out, covering the rapidly moving Lucario, suspending it in the air, blocking all movements. Then throw it hard. Zuwu said. Kirin Key's mental power surged, and threw Lucario hard into the sky. Use wave missile. Zahu said. Lucario was thrown into the sky by Kirin Key, and his body was unbalanced, but after hearing Zahu's order, he turned over without thinking, and then threw an energy bomb in his hands at Kirin Key. Kirin Key, get out of the way. Zuwu said. Kirin Key heard and immediately moved quickly. Just as he took a step, a wave missile came over, and hit his head hard. Kirin Key fell to the ground with a bang, and lost his ability to fight. Lucario turned over, and landed on the ground. Although he was affected by gravity at the moment of landing, his legs almost bent, and he knelt on the ground, but he managed to hold on. What a strong Lucario. He was able to react so quickly, and launch a wave missile attack, even when he was unbalanced in the air. He also turned over, and stopped in the air. His reaction was even more clever. He defeated another Pokémon of Zuwu. Now Zuwu only has one Pokémon left. How should he deal with it? The commentator tried his best to explain and mobilize the emotions of the audience around him. Although he felt a little helpless in his heart, Zahu played too fast, and he didn't say a few words from beginning to end, but he couldn't complain that the player was too strong, so he could only feel helpless. The audience around did not have so many ideas. Seeing Lucario cleanly and beautifully deal with Kirin Key, they cheered and applauded. Many audiences were amazed by Lucario's handsomeness and wanted to capture one. The wave missile is based on the unique wave of the creature. Unless the user's wave is too weak, or the attacker's strength is far greater than the strength of the wave user. In general, the wave missile is a must-hit skill, so the best way to deal with it is to attack head-on, Zahu said. So that's how it is. I know. Zuwu nodded suddenly, then took back the Kirinki on the ground, and said to Zahu, I know I'm not your opponent. I've already lost this game, but I will never let you beat my 3 Pokémon all the time. In the next game, although it's hard for me to win, you will lose. Okay, I'll wait and see. Zahu nodded, looking forward to Zuwu's 3rd Pokémon. As the bottom Pokémon, it will be Alakazam or something. Zuwu seems to be very confident about his next Pokémon. Everyone is looking forward to what powerful Pokémon he will bring out to turn the tables. The commentator seemed to have heard something extraordinary and was looking forward to a wonderful battle. Come out, Giranweng. In the expectation of everyone, Zuwu threw a Pokéball, and a blue Pokémon appeared in the venue, and then shouted. So Nasi, the shout was very loud, and Giranweng, who was selling drinks and food in the audience, seemed to be affected, saluted beautifully, and shouted so Nasi even louder. The voices of the 2 Giranwengs intertwined, one after another, and suddenly became the focus of the whole audience. The whole venue was quiet for 3 seconds, and then a burst of laughter suddenly broke out. What's going on? These 2 Lucarius are so funny. Where did they invite these clown actors? Are they performing crosstalk? This Zuwu's strongest Pokémon is actually Lucario. Are you kidding me? It's an ace. Yeah, isn't Lucario the only Pokémon that can't attack? Who cares? Let's just laugh now. The commentator was a little embarrassed watching this scene, but out of the qualities of a professional commentator, he still said, Lucario, a Pokémon of endurance, has super physical strength, and is good at reflecting opponents' attacks. Facing such a Pokémon, how will Zahu react? Can his Lucario defeat Lucario again? Looking at Zuwu's unexpected Pokémon, Zahu couldn't help laughing, but when he looked at this Lucario carefully, his expression became strange again. This Lucario seemed to be at an elite level. If it is not handled properly, the average Qua-seeking level Pokémon may be directly sent away by a wave of double power. Your Giranweng is well cultivated. Is it your first Pokémon? Zahu said. You can tell? Zuwu was stunned. Because I also have a Giranweng. The one that's calling above is mine. Zahu said. So that's how it is. Zuwu's face flashed with embarrassment, but he soon calmed down and said, since you can see it, I won't hide it. My Giranweng is my first Pokémon. I grew up with him. It has strong defense. It once reflected the dragon's wrath of a Charizard and defeated it. So, it seems that I was not wrong. Zahu said. Yes, I concealed the news. I thought you were careless, and then I fought back. Maybe I could win. Zuwu said, but since you know it, let's just duel openly. My Giranweng has a strong reflex ability. Your Lucario may not be able to break it. Really? Then Lucario, bone attack. Zahu said. 2 energy bone rods condensed in the air in Lucario's hands, and then flew forward and attacked Giranweng. Giranweng, return punch. Zuwu counterattacked. So Nasi Giranweng screamed, and a strange colorful light emerged from his body. Lucario's first stick hit Giranweng, and the attack power was immediately returned. However, after Giranweng blocked the first stick, the energy on his body began to fade, and Lucario's second stick followed, and hit Giranweng hard. Giranweng showed a painful expression on his face. Return punch can return the opponent's physical attack twice, but that is only a single attack, not including special moves such as crazy grabs, double kicks, and bone strikes. Your luck is really not good. Zahu said. Bone strikes can hit 2 to 5 times at a time. The specific number depends on the training of Pokémon and the actual battle situation. Zahu's Lucario can hit 5 times when it is not affected, and Giranweng is motionless, which is equivalent to a target. That is, there is no impact. So Lucario attacks once, which means Giranweng will be hit 5 times, and Lucario will take 2. Plus, Lucario's level is higher than that of Ranran, so there's no need to look at the result of this game. As expected, after being hit by several sticks in a row, Zuwu's Ranran fell down and lost his ability to fight. Go back and practice hard. There are more uses for psychic Pokémon. Zahu smiled and then took back Lucario and walked outside. After winning 2 games in a row, the results are out. Next, the final tournament is the highlight. My lovely brothers, are you ready to play for me? Brother, this time I'm going to leave you with an unforgettable nightmare. Chapter 261, The Arrival of Professor Oak. After playing 2 games in a row and finishing the preliminaries, Zahu was free. After all, the final tournament was in 3 days. As for training Pokémon, that was no longer necessary. It was only 3 days. Overtraining would affect performance, but it would be bad. Of course, Baby Dragon was an exception. It didn't need to play in the game, so it was doing hard training and striving for evolution. Walking towards his room, he just opened the door and suddenly saw a white shadow rushing towards him. Before he could react, he was thrown to the ground, and then his face was licked by a soft tongue. Ninetale. Zahu quickly saw what the Pokémon on him was. With a look of surprise, he hugged Ninetale's head and said, "Why are you here? You don't have to stay in the research institute to take care of the children and wife." Ninetale didn't answer and was still excitedly making out with Zahu. Among Zahu's Pokémon, as Zahu's first Pokémon, it can basically rank first in terms of bond. "Okay, Ninetale, let Zahu in first." Professor Oak's voice sounded from behind, and Ninetale jumped up from Zahu after hearing it. Zahu patted the dust off his body, stood up and said, "Teacher, why are you here? If I don't come, who will help you send all the remaining Pokémon? Besides, my students and grandchildren are all participating in the competition. How can I, as a teacher and a grandfather, not come to cheer them on?" Professor Oak said with a smile. "All my Pokémon are sent here." After hearing that Professor Oak sent all his previous Pokémon, Zahu's face suddenly showed a surprise. Because the venue of this competition is Silver Town, and Pallet Town is on the other side of the mountain, Zahu did not go home first to see those Pokémon in person. He only sent the Leaf King and Lucario when he was about to fight. Now that he can see them all, Zahu can't help but feel a little excited. Yes, they also miss you very much. You are an irresponsible trainer who forgot about them when you went on a trip. Professor Oak said. "Teacher, it's not that serious. I'm also respecting their wishes." Zahu said. "Irresponsible? That's irresponsible. You captured a new mythical beast, but you didn't even bring it back for me to study." Professor Oak said. When Zahu heard this, he suddenly realized that he was blaming himself for not sending Entry, Latias, and Lugia back after he captured them. He thought to himself, Entry is the messenger of the Phoenix King, I can't send him back, and Latias and Lugia are 2 guys who need to be trained. How can I send them back? Okay, you will definitely not train your Pokémon in the next 3 days, so lend me those 3 for research. Professor Oak said. No problem. Zahu nodded, thinking, this is why you came, otherwise you would just watch the broadcast at home. Okay, leave the Pokémon to me, and then you can have fun with your Pokémon. In a few days, you can win the Silver Tournament Championship casually, and then come back to Pallet Town with me to accompany your mother. You and Zyossi are both traveling outside, and you don't spend more time with her. Professor Oak said. My mom? Teacher, my mom is sleeping in the same room with Conan now, and I was kicked out of the chat group by them. Now even when I compete, my mom doesn't come to see me. When mentioning his mother, Zahu said with a look of despair, with Kona? By the way, how are you and Kona progressing? Professor Oak asked curiously. If you are lucky, maybe by this time next year, there will be more people who call the teacher your grandpa. When talking about this, Zahu showed a smug smile on his face. I said that you have used up all of Zyos's emotional intelligence. You started looking for a wife when you were 10 years old, and now you have finally succeeded. But it's a pity that I accepted you as a student instead of a grandson, otherwise I could have 4 generations living under the same roof. Professor Oak said. 4 generations living under the same roof? Zahu raised his eyebrows and thought that if his own child was really born, it would be a bit problematic to call the teacher. First of all, he calls himself dad, so Zyossi and Zyomeo are uncles, and the teacher is his teacher, who is twice as old as his child, so he should call him grandpa. So, the question is, if we count it this way, isn't Professor Oak the same generation as Zyomau's father? Where is Zyomau's father? What are you thinking about? You look confused. Professor Oak said. Nothing, I'm just wondering about one thing. Teacher, do you know about the wave hero? Zahu was embarrassed to say what he was thinking, so he changed the subject and asked a question he wanted to study recently. Humans who are born with the ability to use wave are similar to psychics. They have the power of wave and are the best trainers for Lucario. Strong trainers can even fight Lucario directly and launch wave missiles with bare hands. Professor Oak said. Then can the wave hero make Lucario super evolve? Zahu asked. Make Lucario super evolve? Professor Oak frowned. I don't know about this question either. There has been no such record since ancient times. But the power of wave can indeed promote the evolution of Riolu into Lucario, which is confirmed. There was no such evolution in the past. Is it because people in the past thought that Lucario was the final evolution form and would not evolve further? Zahu said. Your idea. Professor Oak frowned, revealing a thoughtful expression. He sat on the sofa on the side and said after a long time, it's not impossible. We still have a lot of unknowns about Pokémon, such as the Steel attribute and the Fairy attribute that you researched, which have only been determined in the past 10 years. And Mega Evolution is only circulated in a small part of the Kalos region, and many people in the Kalos region don't even know about the Mega Evolution Stone. So what you said is indeed very likely, but there are fewer and fewer people with the power of wave, and it is difficult to study. Not necessarily, teacher. You know I won't ask questions casually. I saw Zyozzy and his Riolu resonate mentally in the previous game, and then the power of wave influenced each other, allowing Riolu to evolve into Lucario. If we can go one step further, maybe Lucario can be further mega evolved. Zahu said. Does Zyozzy have the wave power that can make Riolu evolve? Dr. Oak was surprised, his eyes flashed, and after a while he said, you and Zyozzy are competing now. These things should not be disturbed. Let's talk about it after the competition. However, this research topic is very meaningful. If it can be studied, it will not only be applied to Lucario. The special power is not only the wave power, but also the super power. Nancy. Zahu said with shining eyes. If you ask who has the strongest superpower in Kanto, Nancy will be second, and no one dares to claim the first. If the wave power is successfully verified, she will be the next one. Dr. Oak nodded and said, but we are not professionals in super evolution. Fortunately, because you and Articuno can bond and evolve, I have been in close contact with Dr. Britanno in the Kalos region during this period. If possible, bring some evolution stones for better research. Okay, then I'll trouble you, teacher, to add my name when the paper comes out, so that I don't have to write a paper next year. Zahu said. You kids still want to be lazy. Your previous papers on Pokémon Magic and Waterlatius are both penetrating and very meaningful. The Pokémon Magic paper is kept confidential because it is important, and the Waterlatius paper has been used as a model paper. Professor Oak scolded with a smile. I'm so awesome. Zahu smiled. Yes, my students are of course awesome. Professor Oak said. Zahu nodded. Yes, it's all because of your good education. The old ones are still the best. The words of Professor Oak and a group of Pokémon were beyond Zahu's expectations, but he was also happy. Then time passed. 3 days passed quickly, and the list of the competition came out. It was relatively smooth that Zahu, Zyozzy, Zyomeo, Shinji, Zyuksha and others all passed, but unfortunately, Zahu's first opponent in the championship was Zyomeo, and if Shinji could beat Yuji, he would be his second opponent. Chapter 262 Zyomeo's fight. Don't be nervous, just play your best. Zahu patted Zyomeo's shoulder who was going to enter the venue with him. I will. Zyomeo forced himself to cheer up, but he was miserable inside. Why, every time I'm the first one to meet Brother Zahu. Last time it was the top 32, this time it was the top 16. God is playing a trick on me. With completely different feelings, Zahu and Zyomeo entered the venue from two channels respectively, accompanied by the commentary of the commentator. Dear audience, the first round of today's competition is about to begin. The player on the red side is Dr. Zahu, who is familiar to many people. He is the youngest doctor and the champion of the last Quartz conference. The other one is also very interesting. He is also from Kanto, and is Zyomeo from Pallet Town. He is also Dr. Zahu's teacher and the grandson of Dr. Oak, who is well known in the academic world. So this game is Dr. Oak's student against his grandson. The commentator explained hard, and the camera in the sky took the initiative to project to Dr. Oak's face in the audience. Dr. Oak quickly dodged, and Hanako next to him took the initiative to show a sweet smile. Then, on the big screen, the turntable turned, and Xiaomao unfortunately chose to attack first. It's over. The second attacker will be beaten. Now the first attacker is hopeless. Because it was a match between Zahu and Xiaomao, Kajiro and his friends gave up their business of selling badges outside for a day to watch the match. It doesn't matter whether you attack first or later, but this is a good opportunity to see the true strength of Brother Zahu, Shinji said. Beside him, there were Shinde, Kenji, Yuji, Xiaozi, Xiaoxia, etc. All those who didn't have match today came to watch, and no one didn't care about Zahu's strength. But I heard that Xiaomao has changed differently and no longer attacks forcefully, Xiaoxia said. Ignoring the discussions of the group of people outside, Xiaomao looked at Zahu with an unprecedented serious expression. He took off a treasure ball from his waist and threw it out, saying, "Come out, Fortis." Fortis? I didn't expect you to have captured it recently, Zahu said in surprise. In the animation, Xiaomao didn't have Fortis. Yes, I conquered it in the backyard of Mr. Yantai's house, and it was Kyan who brought me here, Xiaomao said. Kyan who? Zahu looked at the audience seats on the side. This time, Mr. Yantai and his granddaughter Kyan who were here. Seeing Zahu, Kyan who immediately waved her hands excitedly and said, "Brother Xiaomao, Brother Zahu, Kyan who is here, come on, Brother Xiaomao, come on, Brother Zahu." Hearing Kyan who's cheers, Xiaomao's face darkened, and he seemed to be unable to attract little girls as much as Brother Zahu. However, when he saw the girlfriends behind him, he became happy again. Little girls don't know how to appreciate beauty until they grow up. Thinking of this, Xiaomao snapped his fingers handsomely. Then, behind him, 6 mature and immature sisters shouted in unison, "Xiaomao, Xiaomao, come on." 6 beautiful and mature big sisters shouted at the same time, and suddenly became the most beautiful scenery in the entire arena. All the audience's eyes were attracted, and they even paid more attention than the 2 contestants. Seeing this, Xiaomao's face lit up. Even if he lost this game, he had to surpass Brother Zahu in momentum and cheerleading. Zahu's face darkened. In this regard, he really couldn't compare with Xiaomao. When he was 10 years old, he was still a single dog, but this guy was driving a sports car and traveling around the world with beautiful women at the age of 10. In addition, if he remembered correctly, there were only 4 at the Quartz conference, and now there are 6, which means that this guy actually took in 2 more. Scum. Little pig's hoof. Ninetales, you go. Zahu threw out the Ninetales, which was going to give you a nightmare. Now I can't not give you an unforgettable memory. Ninetales appeared in the field, 9 snow white tails stretched out gracefully, and the little ice crystals bloomed with charming charm. This was a long-awaited battle after it and Zahu separated. As soon as it came up, its blood was boiling. You actually took out this one at the beginning. Xiaomao's face changed. Of course, he knew how strong Zahu's Ninetales were. He never thought that Zahu would send this general at the beginning. Fretus, use spikes. Xiaomao gave the attack command first. Fretus immediately spun around, and then spun around, and emitted large pieces of stars, covering the entire field. That's the change. It's changed from a strong attack to a harassment flow, so the 9-tailed fox will flash like a lightning bolt. ZHIHUI said. The 9-tailed fox immediately turned into a beam of white light, and slammed into Fretus. Fretus's rapidly spinning body immediately stopped, and was knocked into the air. Fretus, try hard, use poison spikes again. Xiaomao shouted. Fretus, who was knocked away, immediately stabilized his body, and then scattered large pieces of spikes on the field. 2 in a row. Xiaomao, you've become gloomy. Where's the sunny boy you promised me? ZHIHUI shook his head, and then said to the 9-tailed fox, 9-tailed fox, use the freezing beam again, and we'll solve it. The 9-tailed fox nodded, and the icy light in his mouth instantly froze Fretus, who was still spinning. Fretus, lose the ability to fight. The referee said. Zahu is still as tough as before, and he defeated Xiaomeo's Fortis in one go, but Fortis's sacrifice was not in vain. It has left a very unfavorable ground for Zahu. So how will the next battle develop? Let's wait and see, the commentator said with a little excitement. Finally, a different battle has begun. Zahu should lose one. Thank you for your hard work, Fortis. Xiaomeo took back Fortis. Although he failed faster than he expected, he had no choice but to face Zahu, and he also completed the task. Then he threw out a Windy Dog and said, "Windy Dog, it's up to you next. Windy Dog, the next plan is to use fire to overcome ice. First defeat my Ninetales, and then let my subsequent Pokémon be damaged." "It's a good idea," Zahu nodded. Alala Ninetales has both ice and fairy attributes, and these two attributes are restrained by fire, which is indeed a bit disadvantageous. No, my idea is not just that. Arcanine, use Roar. Xiaomao showed a sinister smile on his face. Arcanine immediately roared, and the sound waves rolled. Roaring can force the opponent to exchange Pokémon's moves. The field is now full of diamonds and poison spikes, so once Zahu's Pokémon comes on the field, it will be attacked and poisoned. Then, after Zahu's second Pokémon replaces it, it can roar again, and repeat the above process. If Arcanine roars quickly, it can rely on this combination to run rampant. Ninetales, magical power, Zahu said. Ninetales' eyes widened, and strange power emanated from its body. The 9 tails behind it stretched out, directly breaking Arcanine's roar. It's amazing. Xiaomao used terrain tactics first, and then let Arcanine repeat the roar. The tactics are excellent. He is worthy of being the grandson of Professor Oak. Zahu is even more amazing. He actually used the superpower trick to break Arcanine's roar. It's really a fight between dragons and tigers. The commentator explained the situation to the audience, who didn't understand the situation. The roar was actually broken. Xiaomao looked at Zahu with surprise and said, "Brother Zahu, why can the roar be broken?" "Because there is no trick that cannot be broken in this world. The so-called sure hit is only theoretical. When the strength gap is large enough, it can be broken, especially when superpowers resist these tricks. There are great bonuses, so your calculations will not work. Although your ideas are quite good, you have studied hard during this period, and have grown a lot more than before." Zahu praised. Xiaomeo's idea is very good. If it is a game simulation, Zahu has no good solution. Unfortunately, theory is theory, and practice is practice. If roaring is omnipotent, Entei would not fight Moltres and blow Moltres back to the Pokeball. But compared to you, Brother Zahu, I have checked a lot, right? Xiaomeo smiled bitterly, but soon cheered up and said, "Wind speed, use sunny day." Wind speed roared, and the sun in the sky suddenly became more intense. Ninetale showed an uncomfortable expression. It is an ice attribute Pokémon, and does not like high temperatures. In this case, let's fight quickly. "Ninetale, use freezing beam," Zahu said. The ice light in Ninetale's mouth induced vomiting, and the cold light attacked wind speed. "Wind speed, super speed," Xiaomeo said. After receiving Xiaomeo's order, wind speed immediately increased its speed. The whole dog was as fast as a ball of light, easily dodging Ninetale's freezing beam, and rushing towards Ninetale. "Spray flames," Xiaomeo said. The speed of the wind speed dog soared, and the flames accumulated in its mouth, and it sprayed towards the Ninetale dog with great force. "Ninetale dog, a flash of lightning," Zahu said. The Ninetale dog also increased its speed immediately, turning into a white light, and dodged the spray of flames from the wind speed dog. "Divine power," Zahu said. The strange light in the Ninetale dog's eyes flashed again, and the telekinesis surged, silently hitting the wind speed dog, knocking the wind speed dog away. The wind speed dog's body broke through 4 rocks in a row, before it stood up with difficulty. "Freezing ray." Zahu did not let up and immediately issued an order. The Ninetale dog immediately launched another attack, and a strong ice light shot out, freezing the wind speed dog in an instant. The wind speed dog has lost its ability to fight, the referee pronounced. "What an exciting fight." Xiaomao used his speed, which was originally intended for attack, as an evasive move, to approach Zhihui's Ninetales. It was originally a great tactic, but Zhihui on the other side was more skilled and also used his lightning flash, which was originally intended for attack, as an evasive move to defeat Arcanine. It was really an exciting fight. However, Xiaomao has already lost 2 Pokémon. What method will he use to turn the tables? Will there be a turnaround in this game? Chapter 263, Subverted Tactics. Come out, Melioda. Xiaomao threw out a new Pokémon, and Melioda's bright and beautiful flowers danced gently in the wind. Melioda? You really surprised me. You must have been captured in Johto. Zhou was surprised. The 3 Pokémon Xiaomao sent out, except for Arcanine, the other 2 were not in the original animation. Yes, they are all specially prepared for Brother Zhou. Xiaomao said, "You want to trick me so much, kid. You have a very bad conscience." Zhou shook his head and said, "Ninetales, use freezing light." The ice light shot out from Ninetales' mouth and shot out quickly, but just when it hit, Melioda suddenly danced and lightly avoided Ninetales' attack. What a fast speed. The characteristic of Melioda is chlorophyll. In sunny weather, the speed is doubled. It turns out that Xiaomao had this intention when he asked Arcanine to use Sunny Day. He is indeed the grandson of the famous Professor Oak and a strong player who made it to the top 16. The commentator explained the situation to the audience around. Melioda, next, use sleep powder. Xiaomao said. 2 small flowers on the top of Melioda's head immediately emitted a little powder and floated towards Ninetales. Even with the bonus of Sunny Day, there is still a qualitative gap between Melioda and Ninetales. Except for the speed, that can barely keep up, the rest are no match. In this case, naturally, only sleep can be used as a fatal attack, and then release toxins, parasitic seeds, and sunlight flames. No matter how strong Zhou's Ninetales is, it can't withstand it. Ninetales, frozen wind. Zhou said. Kyuubi's eyes widened, and 9 snow white tails stretched out. A strong cold wind blew up, blowing back all of Melioda's sleeping powder, and also carrying a cold current to attack Melioda's body, making Melioda's body stiff. Melioda, absorb all the sleeping powder. Seeing that he couldn't dodge, Xiaomao simply didn't dodge. Anyway, Melioda could absorb the sleeping powder she blew out herself, so she wouldn't fall asleep. Melioda endured the damage, and the 2 small flowers on her head spun around, absorbing the sleeping powder around into her body. Sunshine Flame. Xiaomao continued to shout. It was a sunny day, and there was no need to wait for the use of Sunshine Flame. Moreover, absorbing enough sunlight could raise the body surface temperature and warm the body that was stiffened by the cold wind. Hold on. Zhou said. A strange shield immediately appeared around Kyuubi, taking Melioda's Sunshine Flame head on. Ninetales' defense is really powerful. It easily blocked all of the sunlight and flames of Beauty Flower. However, Beauty Flower also absorbed enough sunlight to recover its stiff body. So on a sunny day, can Zhou get rid of Xiaomao's Beauty Flower? The commentator saw Xiaomao's plan and explained to the entire audience. Beauty Flower, highly toxic. Xiaomao continued to attack. A large piece of purple liquid immediately emerged from the 2 flowers on Beauty Flower's head and sprayed towards Ninetale. You can blow back the powder, but how can you blow back the highly toxic liquid that is between gas and liquid? Zhou looked at Xiaomao and seemed to understand his intention. He showed an innocent expression. If you can't blow it back, you can freeze it. Besides, this doesn't need to be frozen. The Quartz Conference taught you how to play dirty. Now, I will teach you how to prevent the opponent from playing dirty. Ninetale Magic Reflection. Zhou said. Ninetale stood still without dodging, but a colorful light power was blooming on his body, revealing a sense of holiness. The poison of Beauty Flower fell on him, and was immediately rebounded, landing on Beauty Flower without any error. Beauty Flower's delicate little face immediately turned purple, revealing a painful expression. The last blow, the freezing ray. Zhou said. The ice light from Ninetale's mouth shot out and hit Beauty Flower, who was dizzy due to the poison. It was solved in one move and frozen into ice. Zhou's Ninetale actually used Magic Reflection, which can rebound the opponent's changing moves and attack, and give the poison to Beauty Flower, and then defeated Xiaomao's 3rd Pokémon in one fell swoop. It's really amazing. He is worthy of being the discoverer of the fairy type and the master of fairy spirit Pokémon. At the same time, because Xiaomeo's 3 Pokémon have lost their combat ability, the game will be suspended, rest for a while, and enter the second half. The voice of the commentator sounded in the venue. Zahu took back the Ninetale and returned to the rest area. Shinji and others who were watching were all surprised. Xiaomao defeated 3 of them, but he didn't take down any of them. Is this what Brother Zahu looks like when he's really serious? Shinji said in shock. No one else spoke, especially Shinji, Yuji, and Kenji. They knew Zahu was strong, but they didn't have much contact with him, so their understanding was limited. They thought they were not bad either, and the 2 sides were at most a little different, but now the difference is too big. To be fair, Xiaomao's tactics and strategy were not bad at all. Fortis controlled the venue, Windy Dog controlled the weather, and finally the beautiful flower chlorophyll moved faster, and the sleeping powder and poison harassment continued. But even so, all 3 were defeated, and they didn't really cause any harm to the nine-tailed fox. Are you thirsty? How about a drink? Zyajiro took out bottles of drinks from in front of him, and Yuji and the others took them and drank. Because of shock and nervousness, they subconsciously felt thirsty. Okay, give me the money. After they drank, Zyajiro stretched out his hand very skillfully to ask for money. Although he had to give Zahu face and come to watch the game, how could he neglect business? If he doesn't make badges outside, he can also make money by being a street vendor in the venue. In order to make money, he even borrowed his own hornet. Shinjiro and the others looked depressed. They had to pay for this thing. But seeing Kojiro dressed like a vendor, they thought about it and decided to pay. They were all people of status, so it would be hard to cheat them out of this little money. Kojiro, happy. Professor Oak laughed secretly at the side, shook his head and said, look carefully, you don't need too many tactics to fight Zahu, just fight directly. If you use tactics, you guys who just came out to travel are just asking for trouble when you compete with him who has been sparring with the king at the age of 12. Yes. Zyozzy nodded. For him now, there is really no such thing as tactics. It all depends on improvisation and backbone. Shinji's expression was a little distressed. Unlike Zyozzy, he was best at tactics. If he didn't use tactics, his strength would be greatly damaged. On the other hand, Shinji and Kenji didn't take it too seriously. They were older than Zahu, and their fighting styles were already formed. Whatever they did was the same. They couldn't change it. Finally, Yuji looked at Shinji. Before challenging Zahu, he had to get rid of Shinji first. Let's continue watching the game. It will be interesting next. Let's see how to prevent Pokémon from getting hurt next. Professor Oak said. Doctor, you mean that Xiaomeo's field setting will be invalid? Shinji said. That's right, both the spike and the poison spike have a weakness. It's a pity that I didn't throw the invisible rock just now. Professor Oak said regretfully. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264, Lightly Abusing Xiaomao. After a short break, the second half continued. Xiaomao looked at Zhihui and said, Brother Zhihui, I will be more serious next time. You have to be more careful. Once your Pokémon is released, it will be hurt. Really? Are you sure? Zhihui had a playful expression on his face. Yes, go ahead, Nidoqueen. Xiaomao threw out his 4th Pokémon. Nidoqueen, you are a pair of Nidoking and Nidoqueen. In this case, Latios, come on stage. Zhihui released Latios, and the elegant blue and white figure appeared in the field, soaring freely in the sky without suffering any field damage. Both the scattering of spikes and the poison spikes are field attacks that must be touched to have an effect. Especially the scattering of spikes, which has another name, the ground star, is a ground type attack, and is ineffective against flying type. So as long as the Pokémon does not fall to the ground, it will not be hurt, and flying Pokémon are basically immune. However, unfortunately, Zhihui is also a flying master. Lugia, the 3 mythical birds, and Togekiss, 5 flying types, plus Latios, which can fly. He can put together an air force. so the venue has no impact on him. But when Zahu released Latias, he overlooked one thing, that is, Latias is a mythical beast. The whole audience fell into silence at first, and then the entire audience went into a riot, as if a bomb exploded inside. This is Latias, the guardian of the water city, a mythical beast. Am I seeing it right? Yes, it's Latias. When I traveled to Altomare a few days ago, I saw its statue, and now it has been captured. Are you sure? The guardian has been captured. Who is this Dr. Zahu? Wait, I checked his information, and found that he had an Articuno when he was at the Kanto Quartz conference. What? He also has a mythical beast. The entire audience was talking about it, and even the commentator was shocked. The second Pokémon was actually a mythical beast. Pay attention to your identity, and continue your explanation. His mythical beasts are not just Latias and Articuno. President Damalanki glanced at the commentator and said. The commentator just reacted and said quickly, Zahu's second Pokémon is actually the legendary guardian god, Latias, which is really too powerful. How should Xiaomao deal with it? After saying this, the commentator was still shocked, thinking secretly, what did the president just say? There are other mythical beasts, which is too terrifying. Feeling the commotion around him, Zahu was also a little surprised and neglected the influence of Latias. In fact, when he took out Articuno at the last Quartz conference, there was a similar reaction, but the influence of Articuno was relatively small, unlike Latias, which really guarded an area, so he forgot it. However, looking at everyone's excited expressions, Zahu secretly said in his heart that he must not release Entei after that. Otherwise, this group of people will come down and tear him apart. Okay, Xiaomao, you attack first, Zahu said. Xiaomao nodded, calmly. He had seen Latias in the past few days. Nidoqueen, don't be afraid. Use the freezing ray. Xiaomao said. The sharp horns on Nidoqueen's head were cold and the strong ice light attacked Latias. Even though it was a mythical beast, it was a dragon type beast, and it was still restrained by the ice type. Invisible, get out of the way, Zahu said. Latias' speed suddenly increased, turning into a phantom, and then his body disappeared in the venue. The freezing ray only hit nothing. Latias is worthy of being a mythical beast. He directly hid in the venue, making Nidoqueen's powerful freezing ray ineffective. It's really amazing. The commentator commented, but his words were completely biased towards Latias. In front of the mythical beast, there must always be some changes. Don't panic, Nidoqueen. Stabilize. Feel the surrounding movements, and then attack. Xiaomao said. Give me the chance to attack. Then you don't have to attack anymore. Zahu said with a smile. Latias, return a freezing ray. In the field, a strong icy light suddenly burst out and accurately hit Nidoqueen in the field. Nidoqueen looked painful, and a layer of ice crystals flickered behind her. Nidoqueen, that's it. Use the destruction death ray in the direction of the freezing ray. Xiaomao ordered to continue commanding. But just as the order was issued, Nidoqueen turned around, and another strong energy hit Nidoqueen. With 2 critical hits, Nidoqueen fell down, and lost her ability to fight. What a powerful freezing ray. Latias is worthy of being a mythical beast, and Xiaomao's Nidoking is no match at all, the commentator said. Feeling the commentator's ridicule, Xiaomao's face darkened, took back Nidoqueen, and then sent out a giant mantis. The next one sent out by Xiaomao is Scyther's evolved form, Mantis. It has both steel and bug attributes. Does Xiaomao want to use the bug attribute to restrain Latias' psychic attribute? But how can he find Latias? The commentator said. Xiaomao didn't care at all, and commanded his Mantis seriously, saying, Mantis, calmly feel where Latias is. When it attacks, you will immediately counterattack. Mantis nodded, closed its eyes, and sensed the changes around it. As a warrior among the bug-type Pokémon, Mantis has a fighting heart and a very keen fighting sense. Latias, Dragon Wave. Zahu launched another attack. In the flat ground, a strong energy wave erupted, like a giant dragon phantom. Mantis, get out of the way. Xiaomao shouted. Mantis felt the energy attack coming, and immediately jumped up, nimbly avoiding Latias' attack. The name of Red Lightning is not exaggerated. Next, use the cross scissors towards the place you feel. Xiaomao shouted. As soon as the words fell, Mantis crossed his hands and launched a cross-energy attack, but the attack was still in vain. Lacious, use another dragon wave, Zahu said. Mantis punched in the air, and its body had no leverage point in the air. Then another powerful energy wave hit Mantis from behind. Mantis could not dodge, and was hit head on, falling to the ground. Finally, use the destruction death beam, Zahu said. Lacious' mouth flashed with golden light, and then a strong beam of light hit Mantis with force, causing a large amount of smoke and dust to erupt. After the smoke and dust cleared, Mantis fell to the ground powerlessly. Mantis has also lost its ability to fight. Lacious' stealth tactics are really great. Although Mantis is fast enough, Lacious' full power flying speed is faster, so Zyomeo still lost. Now Zyomeo only has one Pokémon left. I don't know if it's because of the legendary beast. The commentator has become Zahu's side. Zyomeo reluctantly took back Mantis, and then released his last trump card, Blastoise. Blasto, I finally released this Pokémon, but unfortunately the result is always the same, Zahu said. How can we know if we don't try? Zyomeo said seriously. Zahu nodded, gave Zyomeo's affirmation, and then mercilessly commanded Lacious to attack Blastoise. After a quick attack, Blastoise was completely defeated. Zahu showed his strong strength, and he is worthy of being the trainer of the legendary beasts. His 2 Pokémon defeated Zyomeo's 6 Pokémon without any damage. It can be said that Zyomeo was unlucky to meet Zahu, otherwise he would have won a higher ranking with his strength. Now, who can defeat Zahu or force out the rest of Zahu's Pokémon? The commentator summarized the game with a few words. The players who were watching the game in the entire silver venue were shocked when they heard these words and looked at Zahu on the stage. At this moment, he seemed to be wearing a holy robe, and everyone couldn't help but wonder, can they really beat him? Chapter 265 AI LAN. Don't be disappointed. Losing to your brother Zahu is inevitable, especially after your brother Zahu sent out all the main forces. After the game, Professor Oak comforted Zyomao who had failed. I know that, but I have been traveling for 2 years, and 6 Pokémon together still can't beat even 1 Pokémon of your brother Zahu. Zyomao was still disappointed. Losing was expected, but losing so badly after careful preparation was not expected. That's not the case. In the last game, you performed very well and almost defeated Lacious. It's just that your brother Zahu's Lacious can regenerate and restore blood by itself, which led to your tragic defeat, Professor Oak said. But, my strength really needs to be improved, Zyomao said. If you really want to improve your strength in a short time, after the Silver Conference is over, choose the Kalos region for the next region. Professor Oak couldn't help but say when he saw his grandson like this. Will going to the Kalos region improve my strength quickly? Zyomao said in surprise. If you are lucky, at least your Blastoise can defeat Lacious, Professor Oak said. Zyomao's Blastoise is not bad. If it can complete the super evolution, it will not be inferior to the current Lacious. Of course, it is only the current Lacious, but you have to give your grandson some hope. And Zyomao is indeed talented. It is not impossible for him to catch up with Zahu. After all, the power of ordinary Pokémon has a limit. Even the legendary beasts are no exception. Like the ones in Zahu's hands, except for the super evolved Articuno and the grown-up Lugia, the rest of the Pokémon have no obvious advantages compared to the Pokémon that Zahu has cultivated for 5 years. In 5 or 6 years, the gap in strength will definitely be narrowed. Okay, Grandpa, I will choose the Kalos region for the next place. Zyomao nodded. Okay, then let's pick up someone from the Kalos region with your brother Zahu in the afternoon, Professor Oak said. People from the Kalos region. Is it Dr. Blatan? No? Zyomao asked curiously. No, he has some things to deal with, so he won't come for a few days. The one who came now is one of his former assistants, who is about your age, Professor Oak said. Zyomao nodded without asking any further questions. They returned to the restaurant together, and after lunch, Zahu and Zyomao went out to pick up people. Zyozzy and his friends went to watch the match between Shinji and Yuji. Brother Zahu, is there anything special about the Kalos region? Is it amazing? Zyomao was a little bored waiting for someone at the station, so he began to ask about the Kalos region. Compared to our place, the only special thing about the Kalos region is super evolution, which is also what Dr. Platano specializes in. When his assistant comes, you can ask him, and you will know more, or you will know when you see Shinji's match. Zahu said. Oh. Xiaomao nodded, looking in the direction of the station, and suddenly said excitedly, Brother Zahu, the people are here, right there. Zahu's eyes moved over, and in his sight, a black-haired boy of about 13 or 14 years old walked over. The boy seemed to have seen Zahu and the other person, and hurried over, saying with respect, Hello, Dr. Zahu, I'm Dr. Platano's assistant, AI Lan. AI Lan. Zahu's expression was stunned. The little guy in front of him was known as the screenwriter's own son. In the animation, it was AI Lan who broke the law that Zyros' strong enemy would lose, making Zyros regretful in the Kalos region and only take the runner-up. It's me. AI Lan didn't know why Zahu had such a strange expression, but Zahu was a professional doctor who was as famous as Dr. Platano, whom he respected, so he acted reserved and didn't dare to ask anything. Feeling AI Lan's restraint, ZHIHUI also realized his own gaffe and smiled gently, saying, Don't be nervous, I'm not much older than you. Your name is AI Lan, how old are you? And what is your current Pokémon? 13 years old, I have a Charmeleon now. Although he didn't know why ZHIHUI asked this, AI Lan still answered honestly, after all, these were not special questions. It's the fire Pokémon of our new Kanto trainer. I thought it was the Firefox from the Kalos region. ZHIHUI smiled, but thought in his heart, that's right. Dr. Platano's assistant, the initial Pokémon is Charmander, also called AI Lan. If it's not the AI Lan in the animation, which AI Lan could it be? The only thing that doesn't match is the age. The AI Lan in the animation is older. However, as we all know, the age setting in the animation is nonsense. Zyros has traveled to so many regions, but he is still 10 years old, making it seem like traveling without time. Especially the Quartz Conference and the Johto Conference clearly stated that Zyros collected all the gym badges in the 3 months before the start, so Zyros was so amazing that he traveled to so many regions in the remaining 6 months. Because Charmander likes me, I also like Charmander. I will study the true secret of Mega Evolution with it, and then we will become the strongest together. AI Lan said. That's right. The 3 Pokémon you prepared for the newcomers in the Kalos region, except for Greninja, have not yet found an example of Mega Evolution. Zahu laughed. It was really funny to say that the 3 Pokémon in the Mega Evolution region could not Mega Evolve. Is Greninja special? AI Lan asked curiously. According to his and Platano's investigation, so far, the 3 novice Pokémon in the Kalos region cannot Mega Evolve. Yes, some Greninjas have the special feature of bond transformation. If the bond between them and their trainers is deep enough, they can evolve directly without the help of Mega Evolution stones, and after evolution, they are more powerful than ordinary Mega Evolution Pokémon. They appeared in the Ninja Village hundreds of years ago. You can go there to investigate. Zahu said. I see. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. AI Lan said happily, and he admired Zahu's professionalism even more. He had never been to the Kalos region, but he knew the situation in the Kalos region. He was indeed worthy of being the youngest doctor in the league. Okay, you came all the way here, and you are tired from the car ride. Let's put the research aside for the time being. I will take you to the conference dormitory to rest. By the way, do you want to watch the league game? There is one right now, and the trainers who are fighting are not bad. Zahu said. I'll go to watch the game. AI Lan didn't hesitate too much. He was not very tired, and watching other people's games didn't require any brain power, so it was better to watch the game. Zahu nodded and took AI Lan and Xiaomao to the competition venue. By the time they arrived, the first half of the match between Yuji and Shinji had already been played, and they were taking a break. Zahu looked up at the battle situation on the display and frowned. Shinji lost 3 and Yuji lost 2. According to this situation, Shinji was in danger. Chapter 266. Shinji's defeat. Yuji is really amazing, worthy of being the former chief trainer of the Orange League. In the first half, he used Dragonite to defeat Shinji's 2 Pokémon in a row. In the second half, he sent out Steelix and defeated Shinji's Electabuzz. The game has reached a fever pitch. The commentator explained the situation of the game to the audience. Zahu sat in the audience and shook his head secretly. In this game, Shinji was in danger. Both sides are so strong, especially the explosion of Steelix underground just now. Not only did it die together with Electabuzz, but it also destroyed the poison spikes. It was amazing. Alan looked at the game with a serious expression. He was not the champion boy who would bring Charizard, win 10 games in 10 games, dare to challenge even the Hone champion Dago, and even briefly stalemate, and defeat the callous Fire King Pakara. Now he only has a Charmeleon in his hand, and he doesn't even have 6 Pokémon. This is the strength of the Orange Island's chief trainer, Zahu said, then looked at Alan and said, you don't have to be envious. Your future achievements will definitely not be worse than any of them. Alan looked up in surprise. Although he thought so too, he was flattered that Zahu valued him so much when it was just their first meeting. You can do it. Zahu smiled. Compared with Zyozzy, Alan really looks like a protagonist. He challenged 10 super evolved trainers in a row, but won all 10 battles. In the end, the Pokémon Linoop and the team was even more powerful. In addition to the super evolved Charizard that could defeat the king, there were also Turquoise gods, Banjara and Metagross. Fortunately, during the Alliance War, Pikachu was serious and challenged Turquoise gods alone. Otherwise Greninja would probably have a lot of blood left to fight Charizard. Alan nodded. He believed that he could do it. Although he only had one Charmeleon now, he was confident. Brother Zahu, why is Shinji no match for UG? We beat him when we were in the Orange League. Xiaomao asked curiously. Do you think that only you guys are improving and no one else is? You were trapped in the Orange League and you didn't have many fights with your opponents, so your strength naturally improved slowly. Now that you're out, your strength will definitely improve faster, especially since most of his Pokémon are in their final evolutionary forms, so they'll improve even faster. In addition, Zahu looked at Xiaomao with amusement. What illusion made you think that you were stronger than Yuji when we were in the Orange League? Are we weaker than him? Xiaomao asked curiously. No, but we are definitely not stronger. When you challenged the Winners' Cup, it was just like when we played in the gym match, you had too much of an advantage. Only you had the right to change Pokémon, but Yuji didn't. If Yuji could also change Pokémon freely, like now, he would send out Dragonite in the first half to fight 2 of yours, then leave the game to save his strength, and then come out again at the end. Could you really win at that time? Zahu asked back. This. Xiaomao fell into deep thought, and it seemed that he really took advantage of the rules. Now I understand, Zahu said with a smile. Then in this match, Shinji, Xiaomao said uncertainly, the probability of losing is greater than the probability of winning. Zahu said that Yuji's Pokémon strength has improved a lot compared to when they met, and the Linoop has changed even more. For example, wait for the Dragon King Scorpion to come out before releasing Ditto, and then use the poison spikes together, so that no one will take advantage. Then Brother Zahu, your opponent in the next match will be Yuji. Xiaomao said. It should be, it's the same, if we fight again. But from this perspective, Shinji and you are both in the top 16, so no one will suffer. Zahu said. What's the use? I'm not the kind of person who wants others to be weak, just because I don't become strong. Xiaomao said. What did you say? Xiao's opponent in the top 16 is Xiaoxia. Although Xiaoxia's strength has improved a lot, Xiao's he may not win if it's 3-3, but if it's 6-6, Xiaoxia's chance of winning is not high, so Xiao's entry into the top 8 is almost a foregone conclusion. Zahu said with a smile. If it's 3-on-3, with Strider, Milotic, and Gyarados together, it would be difficult for Xiao's to win without Suicune. But if it's 6-on-6, of the other 3 of Xiaoxia, only Sun Coral and Starfish can fight, and the rest of Starfish have basically never been trained. Seahorse is a mascot, and GP is not Xiao's. Even if it's not, it's still a baby. The 6th one, unless Psyduck suddenly explodes, it's just a decoration. But Xiao's knows Psyduck. As long as the brain is not broken, let Bulbasaur massage Psyduck's brain, and he will win. So it's suspenseful. But it's really interesting. In the animation, Zyos' top 16 player was Zyomeo, and now his opponent in the top 16 is Zyarksha. It's a naked fight between husband and wife. Zyos enters the top 8. Zyromeo's mouth twitched, and his face turned black. He had already lost to Zyos in the ranking of the Quartz Conference. If he loses again now, it won't work. Besides, the opponent after the quarterfinals is Yu, and it is unlikely that he can be stopped. It will not be until the semifinals that he will meet the difficult Shinde, so Zyos is really sitting in the 4th place and looking at the 2nd place this time. Zahu said. Although Yu is a strong enemy who stopped Zyos at the door of the quarterfinals in the animation, the current strength of the flame chicken is not to mention that it is weaker than Zyos' Charizard. Yu can't resist Suicune. So if nothing unexpected happens, sitting in the 4th place and looking at the 2nd place is basically determined. Sitting in the 4th place and looking at the 2nd place. Zyromeo's expression was difficult. Try hard. Zahu smiled. Is Dr. Zahu's brother so powerful? Ailan said in surprise. It's considered powerful. He will be your opponent in the future. You can observe him carefully. By the way, Zyos has a Charizard. These days, you can let your Charmeleon learn from his Charizard. Zahu said. He has a Charizard. I heard that there is a Charizard Valley in Chengdu, and I plan to come to learn. Now Dr. Zahu's brother also has a Charizard, which is even better. Ailan said. Charizard Valley? It's a very interesting place. If you have more time, I can take you to see it. I'm very familiar with the Charizards there. Zahu said with a smile. Meow Meow, who was selling soda drinks nearby, heard what Zahu said and almost lost his grip on the soda in his hand and spilled it on others. He thought, how can I not be familiar with it? You beat up the whole valley. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. Ailan said gratefully. It's nothing, just a small matter. Helping the younger generation is what a doctor like me should do. But if you don't mind, just call me Brother Zahu like Zyromeo and the others. Zahu said. Got it, Brother Zahu. Ailan said. Work hard with your Charizard and rely on your own experience to find your own evolution keystone and mega evolution stone. Otherwise you may regret it. Zahu said. Regret? Why? Ailan asked curiously, thinking, could Dr. Zahu be able to predict the future? If someone offers you something for no reason, it's either a traitor or a thief. If someone wants to give you something, it's best not to accept it. In fact, whether it's the evolution key or the mega evolution stone, it's most meaningful if you find it yourself. Zahu said. In the animation, Alan has been working for the Flare team because he took the evolution key and mega evolution stone from Fladderly, the leader of the Flare team, the largest underground organization in the Kalos region. He almost helped the Flare team destroy the world without knowing it. In the final analysis, it's still because the young man is too naive and was fooled by Fladderly's few words. However, things haven't happened yet. Zahu can't tell all this. If he does, Alan won't believe it. I will. Alan thought about it and nodded in agreement. Although they knew each other for a short time, he felt that Zahu would not harm him. More importantly, he felt that it was impossible for someone to be so kind as to give him the evolution key and mega evolution stone for free. It's unreasonable for a pie in the sky to fall on him. Zahu didn't know whether Ailan believed him or not, but they just met today and were not familiar with each other. If he talked too much, Ailan wouldn't listen. Besides, he was not interested in talking more, so he just stopped talking. As for what would happen next, it would depend on Ailan's fate. Next, Zahu should pay more attention to the quarterfinals. Now the result of the game on the field has come out. Yangtze won. Chapter 267. Use your strongest Pokémon to defeat me. Dear audience, today's first round of competition is about to begin. Everyone is familiar with the two players in today's competition. The red player is Dr. Zahu, the trainer who possesses the guardian god of the water city, Latius, and the green player is the former chief trainer of the Orange Islands. Today's battle on the grass field will definitely be a fierce battle and exciting. With the referee's commentary, the game officially began. Looking at the grass field in front of him, Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. Unlike the Quartz Conference, which first fought in the 4 types of fields in the sub-venues, the Silver Conference will fight in different types of fields after entering the final tournament. And it is not necessary to fight all the fields like the Quartz Conference, but just randomly. Finally, I've waited until I can fight you. Yuji looked at Zahu and said. After being defeated by Zahu and 4 others one after another, he realized the lack of his own strength, so he resolutely resigned from the position of chief trainer of the Orange Islands and came here. He has already defeated Shinji, and next, the biggest target is Zahu. Then let me see the strength of the chief trainer of the Orange Islands again. Zahu said. Yes, although I know I can't beat you today, and when I met you, my Johto conference was doomed to end here, but I also want to see where your strongest strength is. Can you agree to one request of mine? Use your strongest Pokémon to defeat me, so that I can know how big the gap is between me and the top trainers. Yangtze said. Use my strongest Pokémon to defeat you? Are you sure? Zahu said with embarrassment. He would not refuse such a request from ordinary people. But what if there is a shadow? Come on, Dragonite and I have been training a lot after fighting with you in the Orange League, and we have been fighting to become stronger. Now we are not who we were in the past, so even if we are going to fail, let me see your strongest Pokémon. Yangtze said seriously. Okay. Zahu nodded. He did see Yangtze's growth. That Dragonite was already at the level of the king. Although it was the weakest at the same level, it also proved to be extraordinary and powerful. Xiaoluo, come on, make your debut amazingly. Zahu threw Lugia's Pokeball. A huge figure appeared in the sky, with wings spread out, covering the sky and the sun. The god of the sea, Lugia. When Yuji, who was looking forward to seeing Zahu's strongest Pokémon, saw Lugia, he was shocked and almost speechless. He was from the Orange Islands, and Lugia was not only the god worshipped by Johto, but also the god worshipped by the Orange Islands. He really never thought in his life that he would fight the god of the sea one day. In fact, he was not the only one who was shocked. Many people in the audience knew Lugia. How could they not know the famous guardian god who could be as famous as the Ho-Oh? But it was because they knew him that everyone was shocked. Forget about Latios. Although he is a guardian god, he is only in the water city, while Lugia is in the whole Johto. The extreme surprise caused the huge silver conference hall to be completely silent, so quiet that it was frightening. A few children were innocent and wanted to ask questions, but before they could say anything, they held back their words in this dull atmosphere. The most frightening thing was that the air suddenly became silent. After a long time, the people in the entire conference hall seemed to suddenly come alive. Is this Lugia, the god of the sea? Oh my god, why did even the god of the sea appear? Articuno, Latios, Lugia, what kind of trainer is this Zahu? Mom, can I become such a trainer? The entire conference hall was like boiling hot water. A fanatical emotion was spreading wildly, and everyone was discussing it. The commentator was once again in shock. He originally thought that after seeing Latios, he would no longer be shocked by what Pokémon Zahu used, but now he found that he had thought too much. Lugia, how did he capture it? However, as a professional commentator, he soon became excited again, his body even trembling slightly because of the excitement that he could not suppress. This was the mythical beast Lugia, a mythical beast that had not appeared on the field for hundreds of years. This match, no matter what the process and the result, was destined to become a duel that would be passed down to future generations, and as a commentator, maybe he could take this opportunity to leave his name in the history books. Suppressing his inner joy, the commentator said excitedly, "You are not mistaken. Zahu, who always creates miracles, has created a miracle again. He took out the legendary Pokémon, Lugia, the god of the sea. How will Yangtze respond? Will he use his previously invincible Dragonite? Is this a battle between the incarnation of the sea and the guardian of the sea? Let's watch it passionately." Yangtze also took a deep breath, came out of his shock, looked at Zahu and said, "I never thought that your strongest Pokémon would be him. The championship of this tournament has no meaning from the beginning, because it is destined to be yours. So, it is right to meet you in advance. Losing to the hands of the champion is not a loss. But I will not give up so easily. Ditto, go." Yangtze threw the Pokeball hard, and Ditto, like a ball of mud, appeared in the field. Ditto, transform. Yangtze said. Faced with the powerful Lugia, Yuji unexpectedly sent out Ditto and made Ditto transform. As we all know, Ditto can transform into any Pokémon it sees, so can Ditto's transformation be successful? The commentator expressed the psychological activities of every audience member. They were looking forward to the battle between the two Lugia. As soon as the commentator finished speaking, the Ditto on the ground suddenly changed, and a burst of light emanated. After the light dissipated, there was another Lugia in the sky. It really transformed successfully. Ditto transformed into Lugia. Ditto's transformation ability is really powerful. Yuji has cultivated it very well. So will the next battle be a contest between the two Lugia? The commentator shouted passionately. He hadn't shouted so passionately for many years. Even shouting so passionately would generally be judged as a commentator being too young and unprofessional, but he couldn't take care of it today. And all the audience couldn't take care of it either. They all felt that such a passionate tone was needed at this time. Many viewers even stood up and watched the game. The battle between two Lugia. The atmosphere in the entire venue was so heated that it was unimaginable. Ditto, if you really succeeded in transforming, you won't be afraid. Use the divine bird. Yuji looked at the Ditto who had successfully transformed and shouted excitedly. The body of the Lugia transformed by Ditto immediately emitted a large amount of blue light, and the shadow of the divine bird emerged, and then quickly rushed towards Lugia. Lugia, let's use the divine bird too, Zahu said. The wings of Lugia vibrated, and a fierce aura burst out from its body. A large amount of blue light also emerged from its body, and the shadow of the Ditto bird emerged, and also rushed towards Ditto. Under the attention of everyone, the two Lugia collided with each other, but there was no fierce confrontation as everyone imagined. Instead, the real Lugia, at the moment of impact with Ditto, used the airflow around it to gently float up a little to avoid the vital position, and then attacked the vital position of Ditto, and knocked it down with one blow. Ditto fell heavily to the ground, raising a large cloud of dust. When the dust cleared, there was no Lugia on the spot, only Ditto with circles around his eyes. Ditto, lose the ability to fight, the referee pronounced. The Ditto imitated by Yuji didn't seem to have improved much. It was easily defeated by Zahu's Lugia. Sure enough, the genuine one is better than the pirated one. The commentator explained briefly, and the emotions of the audience around him rose. They didn't think that there was anything different about this battle. On the contrary, in their hearts, Lugia should be so powerful, and it was not something that Ditto could easily imitate. Yuji took back Ditto with a look of surprise, and looked at Zahu in disbelief. Is it really so difficult to defeat? Zahu's mouth corners slightly raised. Ditto can transform freely, but the strength after transformation is its own strength, elite level. Even if Lugia doesn't use airflow to avoid vital points, Ditto will not be Lugia's opponent in a head-on attack. If you really want to use transformation to fight, then let dream come. Chapter 268 Lugia's Might. The sky was covered with dark clouds and thunder rumbled. The dull thunder resounded in the venue, and the terrifying lightning swam between the clouds like a spirit snake. Although it was not the sea, there was no spectacular sight of turbid waves and raging waves, but the free-flying Lugia was equally powerful. The terrifying lightning fell and struck the ground, blasting the soil and rocks into pieces and turning them black. Yuji's face became more and more solemn. After Ditto, he sent out Electabuzz, Jenga, and Steelix one after another, but without exception, they were all beaten to the point of losing their combat ability after a thunderbolt, and entered the Pokémon Center to receive treatment from Miss Joy. In fact, 4 of them had already been defeated, and there should have been a half-time break. But at this time, with all kinds of fanatical emotions spreading, no one remembered this anymore, and everyone wanted to see how powerful Lugia was. Even the referee, the commentator, and even President Damaranshi forgot. Yuji was in a state of anxiety. The only Pokémon left in his hand were Venusaur and Dragonite. In this environment, Venusaur was basically a gift, and Dragonite didn't seem to be much better. With all kinds of emotions mixed, Yuji numbly released Venusaur, and then watched Venusaur lose its combat ability after being hit by Lugia's air-slash just after it was released, and then numbly took it back. This child is so pitiful. In the VIP area on the second floor, Aju and several other kings looked at Yuji with pity. facing such a Lugia. Even if they fought alone, they would not be the opponent. Only when several of them joined forces could they be sure. And the child below actually fought alone. How pitiful. Rika, call Miss Joy and ask her to prepare the Jigglypuff. It would be better to call in some wind chimes and use healing bells to treat it. I think there will be many such cases in the future. If we don't prepare in advance, I'm afraid everyone will become autistic. Do said. No problem. Rika agreed very readily. Just looking at Yuji below, she couldn't help showing a gloating expression. Poor and unlucky child. Speaking of the future, if there is a Pokémon battle, if such a legendary beast really appears, is it really necessary to fight? Yoshu asked a serious question. Do and several people looked at each other. Indeed, if this is the case, is it necessary to fight? On the other hand, the contestants watching this game also had rich expressions. Zahu is the favorite to win the championship, so almost all the contestants who did not participate in the competition came. That's why after witnessing all this, they are even more desperate. Although the previous Ninetale and Latias were powerful, there were many powerful and confident trainers among these contestants who thought they could defeat them, but looking at this Lugia, they didn't want to talk. Drive Zahu actually has Lugia. In addition to being a doctor, is he such a strong trainer? Ailan was shocked. He was the most unfamiliar with Zahu here. He only thought that Zahu was a very strong researcher. He didn't expect Zahu to be so strong. 1 against 6. Is it really meaningful for me to come back and participate in the competition? Kenji began to doubt himself. He wanted to make a stunning comeback, but he found that he was still beaten. Shinde looked at the evolution key in his hand. Can he do it? Brother, you are really strong. Zyos's eyes lit up, and he looked at Pikachu and said, Pikachu, we must become stronger and catch up with brother. Pikachu. Pikachu punched with his little fist, and the 2 red electric bags on his cheeks emitted a weak current, indicating that he would become stronger with Zyosy. Alan and his group all looked at Zyosy in surprise. After seeing such power, he still had the courage to challenge. However, seeing Zyosy who was so passionate that he was blind, Zyomeo and others couldn't help laughing. The first thought in their minds was that even Zyosy, an idiot, had the courage to challenge, so how could they be worse than him? It must be possible. At least they couldn't even lose the courage to fight. Just as the few people had finished discussing things, a loud noise came from the duel venue, and Dragonite fell down. Even Dragonite couldn't resist the full fire Lugia for long. Dragonite loses its ability to fight. Lugia wins. When the referee announced the final notice, Yuji fell down helplessly. After becoming a trainer, he had experienced many battles, and this battle was the shortest and longest game he had ever experienced in his life. In reality, it was unprecedentedly short, a series of 6. From beginning to end, it took less than 10 minutes, and this did not include the referee's announcement and his releasing of Pokémon. But in the spiritual world, it was a completely different feeling. He had never experienced such a battle, where he could not see any chance of winning, and the 2 sides were not on the same level at all. Are you okay? Zahu walked over and stretched out his hand to help Yuji up. My fault, I will never challenge you to a Pokémon duel again in the future, Yuji said. Zahu had a subtle expression and smiled. Don't be like this. Next time we duel, I will use other Pokémon to compete with you. No, I'm afraid you will send Ho-Oh, Yuji said with a face full of fear. I don't have Ho-Oh, Zahu said. When you were in the Orange League, you didn't have Lugia either, Yuji said. Seeing Yuji who was really scared by him, Zahu had a subtle expression. He really followed Yuji's request. Moreover, Lugia's strength was not that scary. Even the current Lugia might not be comparable to the super evolved Articuno. It's just that Lugia can control the weather and airflow, so it looks particularly spectacular. Then Yuji's Pokémon was killed by Lugia in one move, so the more it kills, the more terrifying it is. In fact, Lugia is strong, but it is not a match for the General King level, but it is still a level away from Mewtwo and the Lugia of the Orange Islands. It's just that the title of the God of the Sea is too big, which scared these people. Shrugging, he turned around and left, preparing to eat, and then watch the afternoon game. But when it was afternoon, something magical happened. The 2 players who participated in the game both gave up and left. After investigation, it was finally found that it was because they saw Zahu's Lugia and felt that they would definitely not win the championship, so as not to humiliate themselves and be beaten into a shadow, so they gave up the game. When the news came out, a group of people were shocked. Since the league competition was held, this was the first time that both teams gave up because of fear of one opponent being too strong. Zahu set another record. Similarly, because of this, he was dragged to Hati, being stared at by the 6 big guys, Damaranki, Du, Yishu, Aju, Liha, and Ziba. Zahu's expression was a little subtle. Chapter 269 Banned? Why are you looking at me like that? Although I'm pretty, I'd be embarrassed if you look at me like that. Zahu said. Pay attention to the occasion. This is not the time to joke, and your joke is not funny. Du said seriously. Who told you I was joking? Do you have a dispute about my appearance? Zahu glared at Du. What's the matter, little brother? Do you want to fight? If you want to fight, come on, challenge us 4 kings and the champion. Du said. What? Zahu was stunned. Are you kidding me? A champion said such a shameless thing. Not to mention Zahu, even the 4 kings Yishu, Aju, Liha, and Ziba looked a little confused. When you are so shameless, can you not bring us along? You are shameless, but we still want it. What? Don't you want to fight in a group? Du looked back at the kings and asked a question. Ziba twisted his neck first, his eyes shining. Want or not? This is not a question at all. As early as when he was bullied by Kikuko and Kona in the Quartz conference, he wanted to duel with Zahu. Later, when he was bullied by Zahu and Kona together at the port, the idea became stronger. Finally, when Kona was abducted by Zahu to travel, and a lot of work in the alliance was piled up on him alone, the desire to fight became several times stronger. And now, it seems that there is an opportunity. Aju and Yishu have no grudges against Zahu, but this is the only chance to beat Zahu, the trainer of the legendary beast. The 2 people showed an inexplicable smile on their faces, which made Zahu shudder. He immediately knew what the 2 beasts were thinking. He immediately looked at Liha, but saw an even more terrifying smile. He regretted it so much that he almost wanted to slap himself in the face. Is he stupid? He actually went to Liha for help in desperation? This kind of thing of pranking himself. It's good that this woman who is afraid of chaos in the world doesn't take the lead. Surrounded by tigers and wolves, Zahu decisively hugged the only thick thigh here, turned his head, and looked at Damalanki and said, President, save me. Damalanki, who was regarded as a life-saving straw by Zahu, showed a helpless smile on his face and said, okay, stop playing. I came here today to talk about business. Business? Zahu had a strange expression. What business could he find him for? Although he was the youngest doctor in the league, he was just providing academic opinions, and the actual work had nothing to do with him. He originally thought that he came here to talk about the 2 players' withdrawal from the game, but after talking for a long time, he still didn't get to the point. You should know the significance of the league holding regional conferences every year. Damalanki said. Provide a competitive stage for the majority of trainers to learn from each other and communicate with each other so that the majority of young trainers can recognize their shortcomings through fighting, improve their strength, increase exchanges, and promote each other. Zahu said. Yes, this is the original and current meaning of the Regional Alliance tournament. Although it was originally held to cultivate enough strength to resist the Ultra Beasts, and now it has become to maintain the peace of the Alliance and fight against underground organizations. It is all about training the younger generation and cultivating backbone forces. And so far, today is the first time that someone has abandoned the competition. Damalanki said. You can't blame me for this. Zahu said. What do you think? Du asked back. Nonsense. Zahu replied unhappily, because you are afraid of me, you don't even have the courage to fight with other trainers? With such a mindset, even if I'm not there, you are not the material to take on the responsibility. Which is more important, the process or the result? This is a very controversial question. In the eyes of most people, the result is more important than the process, because the process is for the result. Even if there are flaws in the process, but the result is successful, most people think it is okay. But in the eyes of the Alliance, the process is more important than the result. This is determined by the size of the two sides. In the eyes of the players, the champion of the regional conference is the end point, the result, but in the eyes of the alliance, it is not even the starting point. The regional league tournament is indeed big, but it is just a competition, and it is not comparable to the subsequent competitions such as the King Challenge and the King Exchange tournament. Even if you become the champion, you only have multiple titles. Imagine that you can immediately challenge the 4 Heavenly Kings after becoming the champion in the game and fight the real champion. You think too much. Before challenging the 4 Heavenly Kings, you have to wait until the King Challenge is held before you can participate. Then a group of people will compete together to decide 4 representatives, and then you can finally fight the 4 Heavenly Kings. At most, it is a ticket to get an entry ticket. Moreover, becoming a regional champion is not the only way to participate in the King Challenge. Many players will be invited to join the competition, even if they have never won the championship. Like Mikali, he is unlucky and always collides with Dago. He has never won a championship, but he is still a king now. So the greatest significance of the regional competition is actually to train yourself. It is enough for you and me to take on the heavy responsibility, but an army must have soldiers in addition to the commander, and those are all. Do said. If you are really a soldier, you will be so easily influenced, and you are not qualified. Zahu said. Your requirements are for those who are mentally mature, not for these 10-year-old boys. Do said. But the 2 players who gave up the game, one is 15 years old and the other is 16 years old. Zahu replied. Stop arguing. We are here for a meeting, not to quarrel. Lihua interrupted. I'm not arguing. I'm just discussing the matter. Zahu said. To discuss the matter, your strength has long exceeded the level of ordinary trainers. Taking part in the competition is bullying. Do said. When someone participated in the tournament, 4 against 6 in the semi-finals and 3 against 6 in the finals, why didn't he have such awareness? Zahu looked at Do and said, excuse me, are you really qualified to say that about me? Before you say that about me, can you take a look at yourself first? Do coughed awkwardly a few times, finally lost the battle, and lowered his head as if nothing happened. Okay, stop arguing. We are here to discuss things today, not to quarrel. Damalanki said. Zahu nodded and became honest. He knew that the old man in front of him, although he looked old and amiable, and usually smiled, was the real boss of the alliance, and his authority was unquestionable. I asked you to come here today, mainly to listen to your opinion. Yeshu just mentioned a very critical question. If a Pokémon as strong as Lugia participates in the competition, then is there any meaning in holding other competitions? Damalanki said. Meaning? Zahu raised his eyebrows. Don't tell me that you want to be like in the game, and the various mythical beasts are not allowed to participate in the alliance meeting. That's ridiculous. This is not a game. In addition, if you say this, how will the mythical beastmen of Sinnoh feel? Chapter 270 Anticipation of Rule Changes. Don't tell me that you are going to ban the use of legendary beasts in competitions in the future. Zahu said. If so, I will oppose it. It is your own ability to tame legendary beasts. Why can't you use them? Don't worry, your legendary beasts will not be banned. As if seeing through Zahu's thoughts, Damalanki smiled. Zahu smiled awkwardly. Then how should we reform it? Wu is right. A trainer like you, participating in the competition is actually suspected of bullying. Even if there is no legendary beast, you are still bullying. Damalanki said. You can't blame me for this. There is no age limit for the league competition. People like Shinji and Kenji are older than me. Zahu said. The competition here is not bad. The competition in Alola is even more outrageous. Zyos's group of children directly fought against Guzma and a group of middle-aged people. So we plan to gradually introduce more perfect rules to restrict the players in the competition. This is also a plan I wanted to implement a long time ago. Is it fair for a trainer who has been traveling for many years to use Pokémon that he has trained for several years to fight against the Pokémon that the new trainer has just obtained for a year? Can it stimulate the new trainer's ability to the greatest extent? Damalanki said. So what does the president mean? Zahu frowned. Although he didn't want to admit it, what Damalanki said was quite reasonable. If a new trainer met someone with his strength and a bad personality, he might be traumatized. My idea is that the Pokémon training time of trainers is within 3 years. It is best for each trainer to challenge the competition with newly captured Pokémon when he arrives in a new area. This is the most fair. Damalanki said. Every time you arrive in a new area, capture a new batch of Pokémon. Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly, with a strange expression. President, if I didn't know you, I really suspected that you were talking about Xylzy. Yes, becoming powerful once or twice is largely the achievement of the Pokémon itself, and it cannot show the level of a trainer. This kind of training is the most comprehensive way to see the level of a trainer. Damalanki said. But if this is the case, some trainers may ignore their past companions. And even if this is the case, it does not mean that things like now will not happen. For example, Lugia, I just captured it this year. Zahu said. So, I have another plan. Conduct professional assessments, just like the King Challenge, and compete evenly. The current distinction is too simple. Novice, ordinary, elite, king, general, and unprofessional. There should be a suitable assessment system, and then evaluation, and then separate competitions. Damalanki said. But whether it is Pokémon or trainer level assessment, it is difficult to say. Everyone's judgment is vague, and it is difficult to limit strict data requirements. Zahu said. Pokémon, needless to say, the attributes of these restraints, as well as the use of their own abilities, 3 Pokémon are very likely to restrain each other like rock paper scissors. And the trainer level is the same. Let's talk about the kings. They are all kings. Are their strengths at the same level? Kona is a king, and Akari is also a king. But if they really fight, Kona is about the same as 2 Akaris. It's like a piece of cake for Akari to beat him. Not to mention Do, who is both a champion and a king. There have been debates for many years about whether to add a champion trainer level above the king. So if it is strictly limited, there will be more problems. That's why I didn't pass this plan when I proposed it 10 years ago. There are too many things involved. But after watching your game today, I think I still have to propose it, and I'm sure it will pass. Damalanki said. Zahu nodded. With Damalanki's current prestige, the possibility of it not being passed is indeed very small. But even so, it seems to have nothing to do with me. Zahu said. It seems that there is no need to call me specifically. I have nothing to do with the administration. Why call me here? Just notify me. No, it has something to do with you. Because you made me firm up my determination. So in the next game, you control your battle rhythm a little bit. Make the battle less brutal. Then I have reason to say that such a battle will not only frustrate the confidence of low-level trainers, but also limit the strength of powerful trainers like you, because of protecting your opponents. Damaranki said. It's okay if the president says so, but if the president does this, my fun in participating in the competition will be greatly reduced. You also know that playing with my younger brother is a very happy thing. Zahu blinked his eyes and looked at Damaranki innocently. Give some benefits. Kona's workload next year will be the same as usual, and he doesn't have to work overtime because of leave for travel. Damaranki smiled and gave a reason that Zahu couldn't refuse. The president is wise, and all the decisions made by the president are correct, and they are the direction I'm moving forward. Zahu expressed his loyalty with excitement. Anyway, he didn't like to be completely beaten. That was abuse. He liked to play. And playing is to give the other party a little hope, and then let the other party never catch up. Stop flattering me. I'm not forbidding you to use the divine beasts, but don't make such a big scene today. For example, Lugia can just use his superpower to attack. There's no need to make it full of thunder and lightning. Damalanki said. No problem. What the president said is right. Zahu turned into a little flatterer. Okay, go out and study the matter of Mega Evolution with Anew. Our alliance has long wanted to introduce Mega Evolution from the Kalos region, but the control there is strict. If you do better research, it will be a breakthrough for us to obtain the Evolution Stone. At that time, the strength of our alliance will be further improved. Damalanki said with a smile. I will study it thoroughly. As for how to break through, it's your business. Bye. Zahu smiled and stood up and left first. President, is what you said just now true or false? Zibber asked. What's true or false? Introduce Mega Evolution Stone. Really, don't you want your Lucario to evolve into Mega Lucario? Damalanki said. No, what I want to say is something else. You said that Kona's work won't increase? Is that true? Shiba stared at Demerici. There are only 4 kings in Kanto. Kikuko is semi-retired, Kona doesn't work overtime, and Do has to go to Johto and help out in Hone. So, doesn't all the work have to fall on him, the fighting king? Ouch. What did you say? Why can't I remember? Demerici slapped his head and said in confusion, you know, when you get older, it's easy to get amnesia. I have an appointment with the doctor and I have to go see the doctor now. Rika, you stay with me. Okay. Rika stood up gloatingly and helped Demerici out. Do. Shiba turned around suddenly, his voice stretched out, his eyes wide open like light bulbs, staring at Do. You know, I'm very busy. I have to help introduce super evolutions and go to Hone to investigate the magma team. I don't have much time to stay in Kanto Johto. Do laughed dryly and said as if he suddenly thought of something. Genji seems to have something to talk to me about the magma team and the aqua team. I almost forgot. I'll go first. Shiba stood up with an angry look on his face, but he didn't stand firmly and suddenly fell to the ground. Do, who was about to leave, and a group of melon-eating kings were confused. Did we see it right? Shiba actually fell. Fake fall. Before he could react, Shiba suddenly put one hand on his waist and said, oh no, my waist is twisted. Anew, take me to the hospital quickly. I want to take sick leave. Rest for 3 months. Do at the door was confused. Damn, do you have to be so shameless? You are the #1 fighting king in Kanto Johto, who can even beat down the strange force, and now you tell me that you fell on the ground and sprained your waist? You need to take 3 months of sick leave. You can't be so shameless. Ziba half knelt on the ground, with a painful look on his face, but glanced at Do with a smug look in his eyes. Shameless? You guys exploit me. Don't you think it's shameless? You guys do the first day of the month. Don't blame me for the 15th. Next, even if I lie in bed for a few months, I won't go to work. No, I can learn from Genji, lie in bed for a few days, and then sneak away to the mountains. When the time comes, those jobs, whoever wants to find me, it's your ability. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 War. Shiba sprained his waist, needs to go to the hospital. The next day at noon, Zehu, who was eating in the restaurant, was confused when he heard the news. Did I miss something? Don't be surprised, a group of people started to show off. After the competition here is over, I will go back to the Orange Islands first to do the work of the Orange Islands, and will not return to the Quartz Plateau for the time being. Kona said elegantly, while drinking a cup of coffee. After working together for so many years, he still doesn't know these people. Go back to the Orange Islands? Our Kanto won't explode during this period. Zehu is not a fool. He knows the nature of those kings very well. He just thought to himself, is unreliability contagious? Mikali and Genji came for a while, and a group of people also began to be unreliable. Don't worry, there are still counselors who will deal with it. And the rocket team's power in Kanto has been basically dismantled, so there won't be any big problems. Kona said. The 4 kings are mainly responsible for special operations and other providers of force. Now that the rocket team's forces are much weaker, the work of the 4 kings is much easier, otherwise Shiba would have exploded long ago. Yes. Zehu smiled. No matter if there is something serious or not, you have returned to the Orange Islands. The chaos in Kanto has nothing to do with you. Moreover, the Orange Islands is a large region of Kanto. Hiding there is legitimate. She is just his woman, as smart as himself. Okay, prepare for tomorrow's game. The next one is Kenji. He is a trainer who has traveled to Hone, Sinop, and Unova. His strength should not be underestimated. Kona said. Anyway, I won't lose. Zehu said. Kona smiled slightly and did not deny Zehu's statement. Even if Zehu does not use the legendary beast, no trainer here can stop him. Drive Zehu, the king of Kona. A shout suddenly came from the side. Zehu looked over and saw Dr. Kangmu and Kenji coming together. He couldn't help but laugh. Why? You are willing to come out of the institute to cheer for your brother. Both sides of the battle are people who are close to me, so of course I have to come to watch. But I didn't expect that. As soon as I came here, I heard shocking news about you. You really will cause trouble, no matter where you are. Dr. Kangmu said. I can't help it. You are a natural celebrity, the protagonist. Zehu laughed. You are still so narcissistic, but that's it. I'm more looking forward to your duel. What kind of beast are you going to send in your next game? Dr. Kangmu said. Why are you asking this? Zehu asked curiously. Don't you know yet? Now everyone knows that you, Dr. Zehu, have many beasts in your hands. Now someone is opening a gambling game outside. Dr. Kangmu said. Opening a gambling game? Where is it being held? Zehu said angrily. Why are you so excited? People are opening a gambling game. What can you do about it? It happens every year, but in the past, people were guessing who would be the champion. This year, it's the first time that people are guessing what kind of beast you will use. Dr. Kangmu said. Don't give me that. I want to tell who is doing it. I'll go buy some, and I'll use whatever beast I buy. Zehu said. You are operating in secret. So evil. It's against the rules. Dr. Kangmu said. I'm evil. You just know it now. Please help me find out. I'll look at the situation and decide what to use so that the other party will lose the most. If necessary, I won't use any. Zehu said. Not a single one? Kens's eyes lit up. He seemed to have heard something. What? You want a discount? Zehu said. I also want to fight you with all my strength, but I do want to fight with non-divine beasts. Kenshi said honestly. That's fine. Just treat it as a special offer for everyone to know each other. I'll let my old partner come out to fight. Zehu said. We can't just let the divine beasts come. The king of Leave and Snorlax. These lazy guys. If we don't let them fight, it will definitely not work. In addition to the legendary beasts, I have another one that is more powerful than the legendary beasts. Time passed slowly, and the day of the match with Kenji finally arrived. Zehu and Kenji entered the venue separately. The audience around them looked at Zehu with fiery eyes, especially staring at Zehu, looking forward to Zehu's new Pokémon. They all bet on the odds outside. Then, under the attention of everyone, Zehu threw out Lucario. Zehu's first Pokémon is Lucario, so what Pokémon is Kenji sending out? The commentator's voice remained the same, but I don't know if it was Zehu's illusion. It felt that the commentator's voice lacked a little passion. When the audience around saw Lucario, the passion on their faces also faded a lot. Why not the legendary beast? Come out, Yan Wuking. Seeing Lucario, Kenji threw out his Yan Wuking without hesitation. The Flame King appeared in the field, with a burly figure and sharp fangs. The flames around his neck were burning fiercely, proving his fanatical flame power. His sturdy arms also proved his fighting attributes. Second brother, your Wurmple has evolved, Zehu said with a smile. Your Alu has evolved, so how can my Wurmple not evolve? Let's continue the duel in Wakaba Town. Kenji said. Okay, Lucario, enhanced punch. Zehu said. Lucario's eyes moved, and his figure moved forward rapidly, very agile. Flame King, charged flame attack. Kenji said. Flames burned fiercely on the body of the Flame King, and he ran towards Lucario with great force. The two fists collided with each other, and the strong energy waves spread out in all directions, and the two Pokémon retreated at the same time. Lucario, speed up, use enhanced punch. Zehu said. Lucario ran with his legs, and the light in his hands condensed, and he blasted again. Emperor King, charge flame attack. Kenji also used the same move. The two Pokémon were about to clash fiercely. Go around it. Zehu suddenly shouted. Lucario ran towards the body of Emperor King, immediately changed direction, went around Emperor King's body, and then swung his fist, hitting Emperor King with an enhanced punch. Emperor King felt pain, and quickly turned around, and glared at Lucario. Lucario's expression was grim, like a cool fighter, just looking for opportunities to continue attacking at any time. After 2 rounds of confrontation, Zahu's Lucario took the lead and temporarily suppressed Kenji's Emperor King. But will Kenji be suppressed like this? Let's wait and see. I don't know if it's because there are no legendary beasts on the scene. The commentator not only explains less and less, but also becomes more and more perfunctory. What a fast speed. Kenji looked at Lucario seriously. Although the attributes of the Flame King restrain Lucario, this is based on the premise that the Flame King's attacks can hit Lucario. If it can't hit, the attribute advantage is equivalent to nothing. That's natural. The Flame King is the best among Pokémon in terms of physical strength and attack power, but in contrast, its speed is slow. Even if you use the charged flame attack to speed up, it is still not worth mentioning in front of Lucario. Zahu said. Then, just use stronger attacks to deal with it. Kenji said. Lucario, close combat. Zahu said. Lucario ran quickly and came to the Flame King almost like teleporting. The dense fists fell on the Flame King's body, directly treating the Flame King as a sandbag. The Flame King looked very painful. Flame King, don't dodge, hold back the attack, and then use high temperature pressure. Kenji shouted. Not good. Lucario, dodge. Zahu said with a change of expression. Lucario subconsciously wanted to dodge after hearing this, but at this time, the Flame King had already caught it. It had been so selfless just now, and now it had to pay the price. Then, the Flame King's bloated body pounced directly on Lucario, and the 2 Pokémon fell heavily to the ground with a loud bang. Okay, Flame King, hold Lucario down, and don't let him move, then use Jet Fire. Kenji said excitedly. Flame King immediately sprayed a large piece of flame, burning Lucario, and Lucario looked painful. Brother, I was suppressed. What is the trick of high temperature and heavy pressure? Zyozzy said with a puzzled look. High temperature pressure is a special move that becomes more powerful the greater the difference between your own weight and the opponent's weight. The standard weight of Enthusiast King is 150 kilograms, and Kenji's Enthusiast King weighs 160 kilograms because of careful training, while the standard weight of Lucario is 54 kilograms. Zahu focused on speed during training, so there is no significant change in weight compared to the standard value, which means that this move is very powerful. Dr. Kang Mu answered for Zyozzy and others. Zahu's Lucario was suppressed by Kenji's Enthusiast King. Is Zahu's first Pokémon that failed in the final tournament about to be born? Seeing Lucario in trouble, the commentator suddenly became excited. However, although Zahu's expression was solemn, he did not despair at all. He just said, metallic sound. As the voice fell, Lucario suddenly made a sharp and piercing sound, covering the whole body of Enthusiast King, and the Enthusiast King was immediately in unbearable pain. Bone strike in one breath. Zahu said. Taking advantage of King Yanwu's discomfort, Lucario condensed the energy bone stick in his hand and hit King Yanwu fiercely. Then countless sticks fell down. In a few breaths, more than 10 sticks hit King Yanwu. With a bang, King Yanwu fell to the ground weakly, revealing a pair of background eyes. King Yanwu, you have lost your ability to fight. Chapter 272, Duel with Kenji. Use noise interference to get out of control. Shinji and the audience saw this scene with a subtle expression. Zahu used this trick to defeat his electric monster. Unfortunately, there was no chance to fight again in this conference. Shinji's face was slightly gloomy. This guy's really not only good at Pokémon. Kenji's Flame King lost the ability to fight. Zahu still won, but Zahu's Lucario was also seriously injured. I'm afraid he can't continue to fight. What Pokémon will both sides send out next? The commentator's voice sounded. Come out, Infernape. Kenji threw another Pokéball. A red light flashed, and a monkey with flames all over his body appeared in the venue. Zahu raised his eyebrows. Really, the second brother is here, so the eldest brother has to follow. Lucario, come back. Zahu took back Lucario. Judging from the temperature of the flame, this Infernape is likely to be at the Quasi-King level. Lucario can still fight if he is not injured, but now he is injured, and his attributes are unfavorable, so it is better to come back first. Zahu has taken back Lucario. This is the first time in a tournament. Let's look forward to his second Pokémon. Will it be a legendary Pokémon? A legendary Pokémon? Zahu's lips curled up slightly, which was kinda right. He smiled and said, Snorlax, come out and fight. Snorlax rarely did not sleep and appeared in the venue with a serious expression in his small eyes. This is its first battle in the Johto tournament. It must fight well to keep its job. Zahu actually sent out a normal type Snorlax. It's really unexpected. Infernape is a fighting type and fire type Pokémon. Does Zahu have any special plans? Use Snorlax? Kenji was also surprised. He didn't expect Zahu to use Snorlax. His eyes were solemn. Something must be wrong when something is abnormal. However, looking at the honest looking Snorlax, Kenji didn't see any clues, so he had to order Sonic Punch. After hearing this, Infernape immediately burst out at an amazing speed and turned into a dazzling red light. Although they are both fire and grid Pokémon like in Wooking, and they are both fire-based Pokémon for beginners. However, they are very different in speed. Infernape's speed is also among the best among Pokémon, especially the Sonic Punch, which can increase the attack speed. Almost at the same time as the sound was made, Infernape came in front of Snorlax. Next, facing Infernape's swift attack, Zahu's reaction was unusually calm, and he just said 3 words calmly. Snorlax's reaction was also understated, and he stretched out a palm calmly. Infernape rushed over quickly, with sharp fists, but when it hit Snorlax's fat palm, it was like a drop in the ocean, with no effect, and Snorlax clenched his fists. Snorlax, brute force. Zahu's voice sounded. Snorlax's arm emitted a dazzling white light, and then he swung it hard on the ground, violently smashing Infernape on the ground, and then swung it like a piece of clothing, banging on the ground. Infernape, use the flame wheel quickly, Kenji shouted anxiously. Infernape, who was casually thrown by Snorlax, heard the sound and burst into flames the moment he landed. The whole monkey turned into a ball of fire, then broke free from Snorlax's control and attacked Snorlax. Stick up your belly and bounce back, Zahu said. Snorlax stuck out his big belly, and Infernape turned into a flame wheel, and rotated on Snorlax's big belly. The strong firepower and rotation force dissipated. Then Snorlax took a deep breath, and pushed his big belly up suddenly, like firing a cannonball, and bounced Infernape out. Infernape fell heavily on the ground, and was knocked unconscious. Mount Tay is pressing down on my head, Zahu said. Snorlax suddenly jumped up to several meters high. It was hard to imagine that a fat man could jump out of such a height. Then he fell down at a high speed like a meteorite, sat on Infernape, and the whole ground cracked. Inflammel collapsed limply, and he didn't know how many bones were broken, and he fainted. What a terrifying move. After enduring such a violent attack from Snorlax, Inflammel has lost all its fighting ability, and it will probably have to stay in the Pokémon Center for a long time. Zahu's Snorlax is really terrifying. The commentator looked at the broken ground, and was secretly shocked. It was so terrifying. Come back, Inflammel. Kenji took back Inflammel with a serious face, and then handed it to Miss Joy, who was already prepared. Then he looked at Snorlax with a serious face. This Snorlax was much stronger than he thought. Inflammel was already the ace among the Pokémon in his hand. Keep going. Snorlax seems to be a little happy. Zahu looked at Kenji and said, happy. Kenji looked at Snorlax, and didn't know what he felt in his heart. Was he happy about hitting his Pokémon? In that case, Mantis, come out. Kenji threw a mantis and said, giant mantis? Zahu looked at Kenji's giant mantis. Its armor was bright and shiny, and its strength should be extraordinary. And more importantly, giant mantis is a speed player, known as the Red Lightning, and is the most agile type that power players like Snorlax are least adapted to. Giant mantis, use the alloy claws, Kenji said. Giant mantis' speed suddenly increased, turning into a red light, and moved rapidly around Snorlax, so fast that the trajectory could not be seen clearly. Snorlax, wait, Fire Fist, Zahu said. After hearing this, Snorlax immediately closed his eyes, his 2 small ears moved, and he carefully felt the changes around him, preparing for the key attack. Time passed, and the fast-moving giant mantis finally couldn't help but attack, and the right claw emitted white light and hit Snorlax violently. Sensing the changes around him, Snorlax opened his eyes immediately, with flames flickering in his eyes. He exploded with amazing speed in a small space, twisted his body to one side, just avoiding the punch of the giant claws mantis, and seized the rare opportunity. A large piece of fire came out of his right hand, and he punched the giant claws mantis hard, knocking the giant claws mantis onto the rock on the side, breaking 3 or 4 pieces in one breath. The giant claws mantis barely stopped, and fell into a coma. What amazing agility. How did Zahu train his Snorlax? It was able to dodge the attack of the giant claws mantis at such a delicate moment and burst out a fierce attack. It is worthy of Zahu's Snorlax. Now Kenji has lost 3 Pokémon in a row, and he is taking a break. The commentator's voice sounded, marking the end of the first half. Ozzy and the others who were watching opened their mouths wide. Grandpa, was I dazzled just now? Snorlax dodged the attack of the giant claws mantis? Zyomeo widened his eyes with an expression of disbelief. Are you kidding? Snorlax is faster than Megalania. Do you think that Zahu's number 1 footy is a lie? Professor Oak said with a smile. But isn't Snorlax slow? Shinji asked. The scene just now almost ruined his worldview. Snorlax moves slowly, which is determined by its size and weight. No matter how much training it has, it can never become a runner. However, short distance stride movement emphasizes explosive power and flexibility, and does not necessarily require a fast running speed. There is a difference. Moreover, there are differences between individual Snorlax. For example, Zyos's Snorlax can swim, and Zahu's Snorlax, if he is serious, can burst out at a terrifying speed in an instant. Professor Oak said. Is that so? Then can my Snorlax become so fast? Zyossi said with his eyes shining. Impossible. Zyossi has never trained since he captured Snorlax. Zyosha ruthlessly exposed Zyos's old bottom. How could that be? Zyossi blushed rarely, with an embarrassed expression on his face. Okay, take a good look. The power of the legendary beasts is mostly due to the legendary beasts themselves being strong, but the strength of Snorlax is the credit of Zahu, the trainer, and you can work hard. Today, Snorlax might be able to fight 5 people alone. Professor Oak said. Is Snorlax so powerful? Kajiro said in surprise. He was responsible for taking care of the Pokémon in the research institute, but he didn't know that Snorlax could be so powerful. Before Zahu went on a trip, among the Pokémon he had, the only 3 that were at the king level were Ninetales, Snorlax, and Togekiss. Ninetales has the best relationship with Zahu. Togekiss has a strong flying ability, and the strongest one should actually be Snorlax, but this guy's lazy, but now it seems to want to compete for favor. Professor Oak said. Compete for favor? Zyossi and the others looked at each other, thinking, it's not like they are fighting for a husband, so where does the competition for favor come from? Chapter 273 Snorlax's Fight for Favor. At the beginning of the second half, Zahu has 6 Pokémon left, while the opponent Kenji has only 3 Pokémon left. How will the second half of the game develop? Can Kenji achieve a reversal? The commentator's voice sounded, heralding the start of the game. Kenji threw the Pokéball and shouted, "Come out, Crimson Dragon." The Pokéball flashed, and an ugly Pokémon appeared on the field. As soon as it appeared on the field, and saw the opposite Snorlax, Crimson Dragon first roared like a demonstration, as if announcing the majesty of the dragon Pokémon. However, when Zahu saw Crimson Dragon, the expression on his face was very complicated. He looked at Kenji and said, "Don't you have any Pokémon to capture in Unova? Capture this one." Crimson Dragon should be the only dragon Pokémon that can compete with a Lollipalmer for the shame of dragon Pokémon. Not to mention that it looks very ugly. The key is that its application ability is not high. In a real fight, it is probably not as useful as a Lollipalmer. What's wrong? Red-faced dragon is also very strong. Mr. Shaka's red-faced dragon is very strong. Kenji asked curiously. That's right. Zahu nodded, but thought that it seemed that in his memory, only his red-faced dragon was strong. But as the saying goes, there are only weak trainers, not weak Pokémon. If red-faced dragon is trained well, it will also be a strong main force. Zahu looked at Snorlax and said, "Do you want to fight again?" Snorlax nodded, revealing a determined will to fight. Zahu raised his eyebrows and didn't understand why this lazy guy suddenly wanted to fight so much. In the past, He negotiated with him every day and wanted to rest. But it's always a good thing for his Pokémon to fight. In that case, Snorlax, keep going and fight all the way to the end. Zahu said. Snorlax's two squinting eyes revealed an amazing will to fight. Professor Oak was right. It wanted to compete for favor. Because it found that it was about to fall out of favor. When I was in the research institute before, Ninetales, Togekiss, and Fairy Pokémon were all good kids. Magikarp had never evolved, and Zahu was not in a hurry. Everything was up to fate, so the one with the biggest problem was Snorlax. He was lazy, greedy, and didn't want to train. Naturally, the one that Zahu worried about the most was Snorlax. Therefore, Snorlax got more attention and favor from Zahu. The child who loved to make trouble the most in the family was the most worrying. But recently, Snorlax found that something was wrong. Zahu's father didn't love him anymore. Articuno, Lugia, Dragonite, Jenga, and Jigglypuff were all competing for his favor. Jenga and Jigglypuff were fine. They were not as strong as himself, and although they could act cute, their actual value was not as good as himself. But Articuno and the other three were more powerful than himself. This was not good. Although the days of sleeping in the research institute were really comfortable, I slept until I woke up naturally every day, and then ate after waking up, and then slept again after eating. I was carefree, didn't have to fight, didn't have to run around, and had little brothers to order around. Like the 5 Leaf Kings and Zyos's Snorlax, they have all become its younger brothers recently. But it also wants to get the love of Zahu's father. If Zahu feels that it is dispensable, then its future treatment will be reduced. So Snorlax decided to give up the comfortable life temporarily and let Zahu realize that it is useful. Thinking of this, a ball of ice light burst out from Snorlax's right fist, and he took a big step and punched the red-faced dragon fiercely on the head. The punch came down, and the freezing punch with the power of ice directly made the red-faced dragon lose its combat ability. Snorlax's sudden punch was beyond everyone's expectations. Zahu was stunned for a moment and couldn't believe that his own Snorlax was suddenly so fierce. This might be a fake Snorlax. Kenzie was even more stunned. Does it need to be so fast? It was knocked down with just one trick. This is the dragon Pokémon I finally captured in the Unova region. Zahu's Snorlax has once again shown an amazing performance, defeating Kenji's Chimera with just one punch. Next, what Pokémon can Kenji send out to turn the tide? The commentator's voice sounded, and he was also shocked. It seemed that even without the legendary beast, he could still beat him. Kenji took a deep breath, took back Chimera, looked at Zahu and said, "You are as strong as I thought, even without the legendary beast. Next, I will directly use my strongest trump card, the Pokémon that I captured with great difficulty in Unova, Chimera. Come out." The Pokéball was thrown, and a Pokémon standing on 2 feet appeared in front of everyone, with 2 sharp teeth like axes protruding from its mouth, exuding a dangerous aura, making everyone look at this Pokémon with curiosity. Most of its body is olive green, and only a few parts such as its fingers are red. Kenji's 5th Pokémon is the Axe Dragon, a dragon Pokémon from the Unova region. It has hard teeth that can cut through steel bars without becoming completely blunt, and a strong armor. However, it has a gentle personality, and is a very good dragon Pokémon. The commentator explained the situation of the Axe Dragon to the audience, to resolve doubts, and avoid unnecessary panic. Axe Dragon? Zahu's eyes condensed slightly. With an attack racial value of 147, its fighting ability is extremely strong. Among the dragon Pokémon in the Unova region, apart from the legendary beast and the 3-headed dragon, the strongest one left is the Axe Dragon. Even against ordinary quasi-gods, the Axe Dragon may not lose. Especially this one, although it has not made a move, judging from its appearance and momentum, it is probably already a king level Pokémon. It is a bit unexpected, but after traveling for 5 years, if the qualifications and luck are not bad, it is reasonable to have a king level Pokémon as a trump card. That's right, my strongest Pokémon. As a doctor, you must be very clear about its situation. I won't say much. Let's fight directly. Double Axe War Dragon, use double slash. Kenji said. Double Axe War Dragon quickly ran over and saw a sharp white light on his hands. He attacked Snorlax with 2 consecutive sharp attacks. Snorlax, next. Zahu said. Snorlax crossed his hands to block in front of him and connected with Double Axe War Dragon's 2 slashes. His body was forced to retreat backwards. He stepped hard on the ground to stabilize his body. Looking at the Double Axe War Dragon in front of him, his expression gradually became serious. This guy's different from the previous ones. Snorlax, freeze punch. Zahu said. Snorlax's right fist appeared cold light, and he punched Double Axe War Dragon violently with full momentum. Double Axe War Dragon, next. Kenji said, although he could dodge with Double Axe War Dragon's speed, if he didn't have the strength to take a punch head on, there was no need to fight this game. Moreover, Infinite was defeated quickly due to his carelessness. The next two did not really test Snorlax's fighting power. He must know how strong Snorlax is. Double Axe War Dragon crossed his hands to block Snorlax's punch. The whole dragon was forced to retreat 2 or 3 meters before it stopped. A layer of light frost condensed between his hands. This is Snorlax's strength. Kenji narrowed his eyes. It was stronger than he thought. It couldn't even withstand Double Axe War Dragon. But fortunately, the gap was not too big and he could still win. Double Axe War Dragon, Dragon Dance. Kenji issued an order. A strange light flashed on Double Axe War Dragon's body, his eyes became sharper, and his aura became terrifying. Snorlax, freeze punch. Zahu said. Snorlax strode forward and hit Double Axe War Dragon with a cold punch. Double Axe War Dragon, use Dragon Claw. Kenji shouted. Double Axe War Dragon, the energy of the virtual claws on both hands of the Dragon Claws condensed and attacked Snorlax's frozen punch. The 2 Pokémon collided head-on with 1 punch and 1 claw, and the 2 Pokémon separated from each other. Then, under the command of the 2 trainers, the 2 Pokémon attacked each other at the same time. You used a frozen punch, I used a dragon claw, and started a fierce melee, which caused the surrounding soil and rocks to crack, and was filled with a strong sense of power. Bang! With a loud bang, Snorlax's thick right arm hit Double Axe War Dragon's face and punched Double Axe War Dragon away. Double Axe War Dragon stepped hard on the ground, retreated several steps in a row, and barely stopped. Looking at Snorlax's eyes, he became more serious. This fat guy's more powerful than he thought. Double Axe War Dragon, don't lose. This is a last battle in the Silver Conference or even the League Conference. We must not be shut out. Kenji shouted. Feeling the master's eagerness, Double Axe War Dragon felt more pressure on his body, and at the same time, his will to win became more determined. Snorlax, get serious, the victory belongs to us. Zahu said. Snorlax roared. For the sake of favor, it must win. Running fast, Snorlax hit Double Axe War Dragon with a freezing punch. It wants to win. Double Axe War Dragon felt pain, but then it also hit Snorlax's big belly with a dragon claw. A faint green light flashed on its body, and the attack power suddenly soared wildly. In the battle with Snorlax, it was not at a disadvantage. What happened? Why did Double Axe War Dragon suddenly become powerful? Zyos, he asked curiously. That's the reverse scale, the ultimate move of the dragon Pokémon. After a crazy attack, it will fall into extreme anger, which greatly improves its combat effectiveness. Dr. Sora said. Then the boss may lose? Kajiro said with a strange excitement in his voice. Not necessarily. Zahu's Snorlax is more powerful than this, and the reverse scale will make itself fall into chaos. Dr. Oak said. Kajiro looked desperate, thinking, if it goes so smoothly, the boss won't use the beast. If the beast is not used, what about the bet? The odds I set on the absence of the beast are too high. If the beast does not appear, I may lose money. Haoi and Mayomio looked at each other, and they were a little panicked. Will they be asked to pay back the debt? Kajiro and the other two had different thoughts, but there was a series of wonderful confrontations on the field, and fists collided with flesh. Even if the Double Axe Dragon fell into a rage, Snorlax still had no fear. It was also a head-on battle, but after the double bonus of Dragon Dance and Reverse Scale, it could no longer easily suppress the Double Axe Dragon. However, in the fierce battle, the Double Axe Dragon, which was about to hit Snorlax hard with a punch, suddenly hit itself, and then Snorlax hit back with a freezing punch, hitting the Double Axe Dragon hard. Next, the chaos begins. How are you going to deal with it? Zahu smiled. Chaos doesn't mean failure. Double Axe War Dragon, overcome it, Kenji said. As soon as he finished speaking, Double Axe War Dragon suddenly bit his arm, and his confused eyes actually recovered. Chapter 274 Creating a Secret Trick. How is this possible? This is possible? Heyo, I looked at the scene in shock. As the person who is best at the Dragon Pokémon family in Hone, he is very familiar with the special moves of Dragon Pokémon. Reverse scales, can they be overcome? This is the most interesting part of training Pokémon. Theory is for reference, and the effect can be changed. Water Pokémon can use fire type special moves, and grass type Pokémon can learn ground type special moves. These need to be explored by trainers. This is the charm of trainers. Professor Oak said with a smile. Don't stick to attributes, don't stick to moves. Heyo, I seemed to be thinking about something, as if he understood something. Sure enough, time will change a lot. The young people back then have become very strong now. Zahu said. You are younger than me, it's not appropriate to say that I'm young. Kenji smiled bitterly. There is no order of learning, and the one who is accomplished is the teacher. Zahu said. That's true. Whether as a trainer or a researcher, I'm not as good as you. But it's not easy to beat me. Kenji smiled and looked at the Double Axe Dragon and said, Double Axe Dragon, the last attack, the ultimate impact. Double Axe Dragon exerted force with both legs, and a surge of energy surged throughout the body, rushing towards Snorlax with an unstoppable momentum. Since you want to use this method to understand, then as a parting gift, let's do the same. The ultimate impact. Zahu shouted. In fact, the most rational method at this time is to defend, so that not only can you easily withstand the ultimate impact, but you can also use the stiffness of the opponent's body after the ultimate impact to easily defeat the opponent. But at this time, pure theory is too meaningless. If you don't get excited, you will be sorry for this game, and even more sorry for Snorlax's blood recovery that has not been heated up all year round. Snorlax exerted force with both legs, ran like a tank, and collided with Double Axe Dragon. It was like Mars hitting the earth. The powerful energy shockwave spread in all directions. The whole venue was shaking, and the dust was flying. The audience felt the ground shaking a little, and their hearts were beating. But when the dust cleared, everyone stared at the game with concern, without blinking. The fierce battle between the Double Axe War Dragon and Snorlax had completely aroused their emotions. They didn't care about the mythical beast that didn't appear. This was the real battle. When the dust cleared, there was only one Pokémon left standing on the field. It was huge and extremely strong. Snorlax. Although it was covered with a lot of dust and had many scars on its face, it was still standing. It was a world of difference from the Double Axe War Dragon that could only lie on the ground. The difference between victory and defeat. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. In the end, you still won, but it's time to change. If you don't change, my Infernape can easily defeat your current Snorlax. Kenji's face was a little gloomy, but after retracting the Double Axe War Dragon, he looked at Zahu with a firm face and said, has Infernape evolved into Infernape? But my Snorlax doesn't want to come down yet, so let's keep fighting. My Snorlax isn't as fragile as you think. Zahu said. Okay, Infernape, come out. Kenji threw out an Infernape and said, the fierce melee is finally over, with Snorlax's final victory. However, Snorlax is already covered in wounds, but Zahu doesn't seem to want to change Pokémon. He continues to use Snorlax to fight against Kenji's last Pokémon, Infernape. Who will be the winner of this battle? Will Zahu defeat Kenji's 5 Pokémons with one Snorlax, or will Kenji defeat Zahu's Snorlax in the end? The commentator shouted. Snorlax, go to sleep. Zahu issued the first battle command. After hearing the command, Snorlax immediately fell asleep. A strange power grew in his body, and the wounds on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Infernape, use Flame Wheel. Kenji shouted. The back of Infernape was blazing with flames, and then the whole Pokémon rolled over, forming a fire wheel and attacking Snorlax. Since you use sleep to restore your physical strength, then we won't be polite during this period. Talking in your sleep. Looking at Infernape rushing towards Snorlax, Zahu showed a sneer on his face. Do you think that Snorlax is easy to bully when he is asleep? Naive. Snorlax, who was originally sleeping, immediately moved, jumped into the air, and then pressed towards Infernape. Infinite quickly used the fire wheel to spin and dodge, rolling to the side to avoid it. What's going on? Why can you use sleep to restore physical strength and also talk in your sleep? Shinji asked curiously. Because the special move can be broken. Sleeping is a special move that makes Pokémon fall asleep and then restores a lot of physical strength during sleep, but talking in your sleep is a special move that can be used randomly when Pokémon is asleep. Professor Oak said. But isn't sleep talking a special move that can only be used after being hypnotized by the opponent? Can you use sleep talking when you fall asleep? Wouldn't that affect the effect of sleeping? Shinji said. He and Satoshi are two completely opposite people. This is true in personality and in the use of Pokémon. When Satoshi gets impulsive, he forgets all tactics and relies on improvisation. Shinji is mainly based on theory, and now these theories seem to be broken. Yes, but normal battles are subjective consciousness, and fighting during sleep is subconscious battle, similar to sleepwalking. In this case, the power consumed is different from usual. So unless the battle is so intense that you can't rely on instinct, the consumption of fighting is far less than the increase in sleeping. For example, the current Taishan pressure has almost no loss. Dr. Oak smiled. Kenji is still too young. Now is his best chance to defeat Snorlax. He missed it, so there is no need to fight next time. Not everyone is as evil as Zahu. Sora smiled bitterly. It's time to end this game. Dr. Oak said. Is it time to end? Snorlax is killing me? Kajiro covered his chest. His heart ached. He had worked in vain these days. After several consecutive attacks, Kenji realized his mistake and wanted to fight back, but Snorlax had already woken up. Snorlax, use brute force, Zahu said. Snorlax quickly ran, and its thick arms shone brightly. Infernomon, use double kick. Kenji shouted. Infernomon became active, kicked with both legs, bypassed Snorlax's iron fist, and then kicked Snorlax. Snorlax straightened his body and counter-attacked Infernomon. His excessive weight made it easy for him to stabilize his body, and there was no possibility of falling. Infernomon, use flame wheel. Kenji shouted. Infernomon turned into a ball of flames again, and rushed towards Snorlax. Snorlax, next, Zahu said. Snorlax narrowed his eyes, stretched out his hands, and grabbed Infernape. Infernape was raging with flames, but Snorlax held it tightly, and it was completely unable to attack Snorlax's body. Okay, throw it to the ground hard, Zahu said. His Snorlax had the thick fat characteristic, which reduced the fire attribute attack by half. Infernape's damage to it was limited, so these attacks were nothing. Next, the final destructive death ray, Zahu said. The golden light in Snorlax's mouth condensed, and then the violent energy was directly released on Infernape, and Infernape fell to the ground without any resistance. Chapter 275, The Mighty Pishin. Thank you for giving me a good enough match. Kenji looked at Zahu and said. Same here, Snorlax also had a lot of fun in this battle. Zahu looked at Snorlax on the side, and Snorlax showed a simple expression. I had a good fight with you in the last league match, so I have no regrets. Kenji said. You won't challenge the league in the future? Zahu said in surprise. No, after I came back, while studying Pokémon with my brother, I suddenly found that Pokémon researcher seems to be more suitable for me. Kenji said. Okay, if you want to study in the future, follow me. Zahu smiled. Kenji's smile froze, and then he remembered that it seemed that the achievements of the researcher in front of him were greater than his achievements as a trainer, especially in the Kanto Johto region. He was a well-deserved authority in the academic world. It was also a mountain that Kenji could not avoid. Taking a deep breath, Kenji decided to apply to study in the Unova region. Next, let's take a look at the game. The game in the afternoon will also be very interesting, Zahu said. Are you confident in your brother? Kenji said. Of course my brother is confident, Zahu said. The two smiled and walked towards the restaurant with their relatives and friends in the audience. Work harder in the afternoon game. As I said before, I hope to face you in the finals, Zahu said. I will. Zyozzy nodded seriously while eating. Zahu smiled and looked at Zende, who was also eating, and said, although I look forward to playing with Zyozzy, you should also work hard. If it's you, it's okay. I will compete with you in the finals, and I will use Charizard to beat your Pokémon, including the legendary beasts. Zende said seriously. I hope so. Zahu's smile remained, but there was a slight change in his eyes. Charizard, Zende's first Pokémon, must be strong. Especially now that Zende said it, the meaning was even more different. If you want to fight with my brother, you have to fight with me first. Your Charizard may not be able to beat my Charizard. He angrily showed his presence. Then wait until the afternoon game starts and see how strong you are. Shinde didn't say much, but left everything to the afternoon game. He was also full of enthusiasm and prepared for the afternoon game. Time passed quickly. Not long after lunch, the second semi-final began. Shinde faced Zyozzy. Zyozzy had bad luck and had to send out his Pokémon first, but he didn't care. Pikachu, it's decided to be you. Zyozzy sent out his most trusted partner without hesitation. Pika the Pikachu next to him immediately ran to the venue, and the two red electric bags on his cheeks emitted weak electricity. Come out, Monarch Snake. Shinde also released his own Pokémon. A light green long snake Pokémon appeared in the venue. The emerald green represented the common characteristics of grass-type Pokémon, while the yellow lines on the body showed a bit of royal nobility, and the red eyes were even colder, making people feel both noble and domineering. What kind of Pokémon is this? Heyo, I asked curiously. Serpentis, the final evolution of the grass-type Pokémon Spearhoden that newcomers in the Unova region will get, is similar to the Lizard King and the Hone region. Unlike Venusaur and Venusaur in Kanto Johto, it is very fast and noble and arrogant. Zahu explained. A Pokémon from the Unova region. Shinji frowned on the side. He didn't have any feelings at ordinary times, but after participating in the tournament this time, Kenji and Shinji, trainers who have traveled for many years, participated. He realized that his knowledge was not enough. Yes, you will see it in the future. Zahu smiled. Shinji nodded. He believed that he could do it in the future. He said, Serpentis is a grass-type Pokémon, and it is the final evolution. The level must not be low. Zyoz's Pikachu has disadvantages. Can he win? It should be possible. Zahu smiled. Pikachu is a little water in outdoor competitions, but the performance in official competitions has always been good. Generally speaking, it takes away at least one Pokémon of the opponent. Pikachu, use Lightning Flash. Zyozzy shouted. Pikachu immediately started running at a high speed, almost turning into a yellow light, and rushed towards the serpent. Get out of the way, Shinde shouted. The serpent moved immediately, almost disappearing in an instant. Pikachu rushed towards it at high speed, but only hit nothing. Vine Whip, Shinde said. The two green vine whips on the serpent were pulled out sharply, hitting Pikachu's petite body with force. Pikachu let out a Pika, and fell to the ground. Pikachu, use 100,000 volts, Zyozzy shouted. Electricity surged from Pikachu's body, and the powerful current hit the serpent. Serpent, rush over and use Iron Tail, Shinde said. The emerald green tail of the serpent immediately showed a silver-white metallic luster, and it swung hard, breaking the current and hitting Pikachu. Pikachu, let's use Iron Tail too, Zyozzy said. Pikachu immediately jumped swiftly, its spring tail shining brightly, and fiercely confronted the steel tail of the Kingpin. With a slight sound, Pikachu and Kingpin pulled away again, with serious expressions on their faces. Pikachu, let's use 100,000 volts again. Zyozzy shouted, break the Iron Tail. Shinde's orders continued. Kingpin used its steel tail again, and then twitched violently, breaking the 100,000 volts. Energy Ball, Shinde said. A green energy ball condensed in Kingpin's mouth, and then hit Pikachu violently. This time Pikachu was prepared and dodged it at the beginning. However, just after dodging one, Kingpin's next energy ball hit again, one after another, hitting Pikachu overwhelmed. Zyozzy frowned, thinking about countermeasures in his heart. The lightning flash was not fast enough, and the 100,000 volts would be broken by the Iron Tail, and the Iron Tail could not get close. What should I do next? Even thunder would be useless. Pikachu just when Zyozzy was worried, a serpentine energy ball hit Pikachu, and it screamed. Is this the extent you and your partner can achieve? Is it only like this? If so, then quickly release Suicune, Shinde said coldly. You are talking nonsense. My Pikachu is not that weak. Pikachu, use thunder. Zyos, he shouted. 100,000 volts can't hit it, let alone thunder? Serpentine, get out of the way, and you Scientail. Shinde said indifferently. Pikachu, run over and receive the thunder. At this time, Zyos, he suddenly gave an unexpected order, and Shinde was stunned. What the hell? Compared to Shinde's surprise, Pikachu ran over quickly. It and Zyos' bond has become so good that it is unimaginable. No one can do without each other. Similarly, it will implement each other's orders without hesitation because it knows that Zyos, he will not harm it. Pikachu quickly ran under the lightning, and then its own thunder fell on it. A painful expression immediately appeared on its face. Even though it is an electric Pokémon, it does not mean that electric attacks will not hurt it. Pikachu, hold on. Zyos, he shouted. Hearing Zyos' shout, Pikachu overcame the pain in his body and madly absorbed the power of lightning. His whole body was covered with a layer of lightning armor composed of pure lightning energy. What's going on? Can thunder be used like this? Zyomeo, who was watching, was completely confused. Are you kidding me? Drive Zahu, can thunder be used as a armor? Ailan also looked puzzled. He had never seen such a phenomenon before. Nothing is impossible for Zyos. Zahu shrugged. Although he thought it was nonsense to look at Pikachu in the lightning armor on the field in front of Zyos, it would be nonsense not to talk nonsense. Moreover, this is still acceptable. After all, Pikachu is also an electric type. In the animation, Pikachu and King Swallow accepted the thunder and then wore battle clothes together, which is really inexplicable. Shinde's expression was also a little shocked. He had traveled to so many places, but this was the first time he saw such an operation, and it was successful. However, in the battle, Shinde's good combat qualities that he had cultivated for a long time made him calm down quickly and said, Monarch Snake, use Energy Ball. Monarch Snake looked at Pikachu now and was also a little confused, but after hearing the trainer's order, he immediately fired an energy ball without thinking. Pikachu, flash of lightning, rush over. Zyos, he shouted. Pikachu. Pikachu was shining with lightning all over his body, moving at a fast speed, like an invincible god of war, turning into a flash of lightning, directly breaking through the energy ball, and then hitting Monarch Snake. Monarch Snake cried out in grief, and the strong electric current spread all over his body, and directly lost all combat capabilities. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.